Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Darno, it's popped up, it's playable, careful. Both go at it, it's caught by Higashioka, the game's over. And the Padres win it. They will meet the Dodgers in the division series.
And that'll do it. The Motown magic continues. The Tigers sweep the Astros 5-2, and they will move to the American League Division Series.
The pitch. He struck him out. And the Kansas City Royals move on to the Division Series. This improbable season.
He swings and drives one out towards right center. Taylor back. And it's gone. Mitchell, a two-run homer.
Well, the thing is, when you go on the road, you got to throw the first punch. You know, the home team always going to come out with a lot of energy. They got their fans behind them. You know, they always want to defend their home turf, but you got to go in there with an attitude that, you know, Coach Rhule said it. You know, we're kicking the door in. Corey Campbell said it as well. We're kicking the door in, and we're here. You know what I mean? Our guys had that mentality the minute we stepped on the plane and got off the plane, and they were ready to go. And, you know, our seniors, you know, we talked about it during the week was, so those guys only won about 4 or 5 home games in their whole career. So we definitely wanted to take the energy that we have at home because of our fan base and, you know, go on the road and represent well. But our fans show up well on the road, and on our sideline, it felt like a home game anyway.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. DB, I love me some T-Knighton.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. He and Jessica have it's a pretty funny relationship. Like, she can get him. He's just got a really good personality. Yeah. Anyway, and he's just super good natured and he's confident. Gave me a hug on the plane.
Yeah.
You know, the aisles are about the width of my thigh.
I would say not even between you and me.
Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah.
And I just try to get by, you know, because it's kind of real somber and not somber, it's serious, like head down, and he's kind of dap guys up and you keep it moving. He's like, get it in here. He like jerks me over. I got my bag. I was like, ouch. But no, just, I mean, he's just that guy.
Yeah. Good natured.
Yeah, really good natured. He can loosen the mood, but he can tighten that bad boy up too.
Oh yeah.
It just depends on what side of the street you're on. But yeah, it was an interesting conversation to say the least, because I think that team kind of goes with the tone of his D-line.
Yeah.
Now the secondary is close, but they kind of been not flying under the radar a little bit. I think they feel like
that's fair. I think they're flying under the radar.
I think they feel like they got a lot more in there because I think what they hear is, or what they feel is, everybody talks about everybody else on the defense, right? Nobody's really talked about anybody in the secondary. Except you could maybe make the case for Sierra, right?
You're right, but that's more like, oh, look how good he's doing for a backup.
Yeah, and he's kind of squirrely.
Yeah,
you know, and so
actors.
So they like. I'll be curious. You know, I said it last week. I threw it out there. Were they going to be business-like or toy?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, they are back at the house, and I think I think they kind of been waiting on this one.
You think so?
Yeah, it seems like it.
It's felt like a business-like week.
So you know what I think the underlying tone is?
What's that?
Are they really a better version of us?
Okay.
That's what it kind of feels like to me. Because a lot of the coaches
some people think that? I
don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, all week I've been trying to get a feel of what we think of Rutgers.
Yeah, you asked me yesterday.
I'm probably more confused on what we feel about Rutgers today than I was on Thursday, which is weird.
Yeah, I honestly don't know either. Because I've heard. I mean, I answered yesterday that I think some people think that Rutgers is the boogeyman, right? That they're the better version of Nebraska. That
Baba Yaga,
the Chupacabra,
the one that you call to kill the boogeyman. Do you know who that is?
No,
that would be John Wick.
You're a big John Wick guy.
I am, and I stumbled into it.
Did you watch all three of them in like one night?
No, that was The Godfather, and I didn't
okay.
quite. It went into the morning, and I turned off 3. But I did.
That's a good decision.
I did binge 1 and 2.
First 2 were really good though.
Because when I watched it, 3 wasn't out yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I was late to the party on John Wick.
Sounds like you were late to the party on The Godfather too.
I was, yeah. Peaky Blinders, which I was just knocking out episode
Peaky
after
Blinders
episode
is great.
on the plane until B-Mac. We had the best TV setup going riding on the plane home.
Yeah.
Yeah. He taught me how to do the Wi-Fi. So I had my computer open. So I had YouTube on that one.
Mm-hmm.
He showed me this little phone thing that can hold your phone on the seat, which I didn't know. I thought it was just like a tray, but it has another little sneaky hidden device. I was like, wait, I don't want to have to use my hands. It's kind of how I said it too. So I had the top and bottom of the phone and laptop, and then he's sitting right next to me because Jess traded seats because those two were together, and I was stuck in the middle across the way. I was like, I want to go over there.
I want to hang out with my friends.
Yeah, so this was before we got there, and she's like, well, do you want to trade on the way back? And I was like, yeah, you got me? And she said yes, but then when we got on the plane to come back, she was just kidding. So I was like, damn it, I'm already sitting here. She goes, no, I'm just joking. So she went and sat on the corner with Brandon, and we're like, okay, you watch this one, I'll watch this one up here, and then we'll watch. I mean, we were just knocking out. It was like being at home with Multiview on the plane.
Yeah.
So I was chill, but I couldn't get the Rutgers Washington game out of my mind the night before because I'm the only EA who's still sitting in my hotel room because of, I won't say coach, watching the Central West Side game, right? So I'm just like, man, is Rutgers good? Is Washington good?
Yeah.
So now I don't know.
I rewatched that game last night, actually, Rutgers Washington.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Weird vibe. You got out of there, and you got to remember.
I left
whatever your feelings were. You have to remember at late in that game, somehow Washington was down 2 scores.
Yeah, 21-10.
The score looks like 21-18, and that's fine because the game was probably closer than that. But almost the whole time, once it got to be 14-3, you're like, what is Washington doing?
Yeah.
Right. With like 3 minutes to go or whatever, that game was 21-10.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Washington was about to take the lead.
No.
And they were kind of dominant.
It was a little bit like the Michigan-Minnesota game where there was like kind of the late scramble back and the score ends up looking like it's a really close game. And obviously Minnesota had other factors with the onside and whatever, but Michigan was in control for most of that game.
So you know what's interesting about that?
What's that?
It was a bad 4-minute stretch for Michigan.
Yeah.
5. But props, you know what I think kind of jump-started that bad boy?
What's that?
Did you not see Fleck get the field goal unit on the field?
Oh, yeah.
Post the Hail Mary?
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, what the?
So Heath asked a good question in the chat.
Already?
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at the chat.
Because he goes,
who's in the chat?
Well, our guy, Steven. He goes, good morning. Got a good feeling about Saturday. I said, well, actually, so do I, Steven.
All right. What did he say?
He goes, Ravi, what gives you confidence now versus preseason when you said Rutgers could catch us? Is it that you don't believe Rutgers is as good as the stats say? Couple things. I never thought Rutgers was going to be great. I thought they were possibly the best team in the first 7 that Nebraska was going to play. That turned out not to be true. I think Illinois and Indiana are possibly better than Rutgers. Not that Rutgers is bad. But,
you didn't really like Colorado.
Yeah, I never really liked Colorado. Colorado's better than I thought they were going to be, for sure. But the issue with Rutgers was more about,
like how you say that.
What, Rutgers?
Like Hauer?
How? Huh?
You go, the issue with Rutger.
Oh, just one. Just
Rutger.
one Rutger. Just one
The issue
Rutger.
with Rutger, Hauer.
It's just singular, not plural. There's only one school there.
Kind of typecasting, probably plays a cop or a homicidal maniac. Rolls for Rutger Hauer. Although, was he in
No, like Darius Rucker.
No, Harrison Ford. He
was in Blade Runner.
Thank you. That's
one of my all-time
That's
favorite
the movie
movies.
I was looking for.
He's
Thank
also
you.
in the remake of Blade Runner, 2049.
Well, that's nice. Is Harrison Ford in that one too?
Yeah, different guy, but
all right. The more you know.
So no, my issue with
Thrill said good morning. You gonna say good morning to Thrill?
What's up, Will? My issue with Rutgers isn't that who I think of them. That was more of a timing thing with the schedule. I didn't think they were getting through 7-0, and I was trying to find out what made the most sense for where they were going to lose. That's the same reason you picked Purdue. First road game. It's not like you thought Purdue was world beaters. First road game, it's a different challenge for Nebraska. That ends up obviously going Nebraska's way. But since Nebraska already has a loss in the first 7, that changes how I feel about how the 7's going to play out. I was looking at it holistically.
Yeah,
as
game was I was
game.
like, shoot, Nebraska's going to be 4-0 with their first road game. They have to learn.
Yeah, you don't know how to handle that, right?
But and then I was like, oh, they already got a loss, so I feel good about Purdue.
So it changes it, right? Same thing with Rutgers. It's not that I necessarily think anything different about Rutgers. They're about who I thought they were. Pretty solid team, not a team that necessarily scares me. But if Nebraska was 5-0 at this point, this game would be concerning to me, especially since Indiana's good now.
No.
What?
You think if Nebraska was 5-0, this game would be more concerning
than it is right now? Yeah.
Oh man, I think they would be so confident in a good way.
Yeah,
because
it's certainly possible.
Because for them, you know, I'm telling you, I think that I'm telling you like I'm right. I feel like for this team, this is a prove it game, especially after all the snippets came out in Chasing 3. And before you ask me, I don't care. I don't if they release those or not post wins and losses, because I heard that a ton.
Oh, they're only going to release them after wins.
Is it a reward? So before I have a hot take on that, I'd have to ask them, what is Chasing 3 for?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What's it for? Is it for recruiting? Is it? Well, it's clearly for recruiting.
Yeah, a lot of it's for recruiting.
So I don't know what the desired outcome is, because then once you told me that,
that'll dictate
whether I care if it comes out after wins or losses. Because right now I don't.
Yeah.
Because I don't look forward to the episode. So full disclosure, I'm different. This just in. You know what I mean? I'd have to know what it's for.
Yeah. You can't judge why they're doing something if you don't know why they're doing something.
Yeah. So I would, but to fast forward, like there's this, and he's edgy. Let's not get it twisted. Like Coach Rhule is just competitive and edgy by nature. It doesn't matter what it is. You could say, man, you could be watching a food thing like competition eating. Oh man, he ate, 36 ounces. Oh, I could eat 36 ounces. Like no big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it just naturally flows.
Yeah.
Oh man, Signetti was this and this at Big Ten Media Days. Oh, what's he gonna say? It's Indiana.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just kind of like that. So I don't have any problems with guys that stay on the gas. So I think when you hear him talk, it's always this prove it kind of tough mentality. I don't know if it's the walk on from the East Coast. I don't know if it's how he was reared, but he doesn't have any problems keeping receipts and being motivated because he's highly, highly competitive. So that's just what you hear all the time. And I think he finds a way, or he tries to find a way to harness it without being super emotional.
Yeah.
But he has tons of emotion.
Well, what did he tell us at Big Ten Media Days, right? You have emotion, don't be emotional.
And the thing I think the thing that I like the most about him is there are flaws, but he manages them. Doesn't let it define him, and he still goes and gets it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how he wants the team to be.
Yeah, I think so.
So every time we hear him talk or motivate, that's always what it's about. There's kind of this prove it to you. It's prove it, but it's not to the. And I say this on the heels of him saying, all the stuff that people say about you out there. It's more prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, are you who you've been called to be?
Yeah. Are we who we think we are?
That's the part that I like.
That's part of the reason, though, I think I'm less worried about Rutgers today than I would have been if they're 5-0. Because
do you get the sense it's who's more the version of themselves, or who do they think we are?
I think it's more that people think Rutgers is a better version of Illinois than that they think they're a better version of Nebraska.
They don't play the same.
I know, but people can make you dumber. I think they look at it and they go physical, running football team, defensive minded. They think Illinois Rutgers.
I never thought that about. I still don't think that about Illinois.
I know, but that's the reputation of a Brett Bielema team. I get that that's not what this Brett Bielema team is.
I was so glad to hear Jay say on the Illinois Big Red Wrap Up, he slid it in and just kept on pushing. He goes, "That wasn't a physicality thing."
I thought
how many times did I say that? And I felt like I was like Gilligan.
I thought Colorado was more physical than Illinois.
I'm like, that wasn't what that game was about.
Defensively, at least.
You know, when people say you got punched in the mouth, you know what it was? They wanted it more than you.
Yeah,
that was the message that he was trying to convey.
Physical.
Because it was so physical. Stop saying that.
No,
like
it really wasn't. That's not. And typically, that's how Illinois has played in the past. That's really not what this Illinois team was. They were kind of a tempo.
So Rutgers, especially along the D line and O line, is more physical.
Yeah,
but it lends itself to the running game because it's patience. And the thing that you're going to like about Monangai, if you're a Rutgers fan, is this uncanny ability to kind of play peekaboo and come out of the back end. Like he's super patient, and he understands that you could tell it is a nice relationship between his running style and that offensive line. It reminds me a lot of like Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers, and I hated watching that peekaboo style. But he is for a power runner.
Yeah,
his patience is incredible.
So I want to talk about their D-line for a second here, because I think people make these assumptions about Rutgers because of who their coach is and how they've played historically and how his teams have played historically. This is a very bad rush defense.
It's the worst in the Big Ten.
5.9 a carry. I think it's 6.7 when you take sacks out.
Yeah.
That's really, really bad.
No, I'm well aware.
And if you watch that Washington Rutgers game from Friday, Washington kind of got whatever they wanted. Running the ball for most of the game.
Yeah.
Got kind of whatever they wanted. Yeah. Guys squirting out the back end. You had all sorts of cutback lanes. And I did walk away from that game thinking, hey, this feels like an Emmett Johnson game to me in terms of the way Washington was getting yards against Rutgers. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Again, sort of like we had with Illinois. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about Rutgers and who they are because of who we assume a Greg Schiano team is. And stylistically, they're still trying to be that team, but right now that's not who they are. And I think I don't remember who it was. It was one of the national recruiting guys was breaking down this game. And he said, which do you find more believable? That all of a sudden Rutgers is going to clean up that 6.7 a carry and be able to stop Nebraska from running the ball? Or do you think Monangai is going to be able to bust up Nebraska's 2.5 yards a carry that they're giving up? Like whichever one of those you find more believable probably indicates how you think this game's going to go. And I mean, me personally, because I do think Rutgers offense can be fairly one-dimensional. I'm not enamored with Callie Agmanis, especially compared to Dylan Raiola. To me, it's more believable that Rutgers is going to have a harder time shoring up Nebraska's offense than it is Nebraska shoring up Monangai.
Well, at the end of the day, Nebraska knows, and I don't think it's real fancy. If you want to talk like a subtle kind of blueprint, inside run game with duo and the way that they want to block on, like from C-gap out, like edge run game and RPOs. I think Nebraska has got to figure out.
The RPOs are the only thing that concern me about Rutgers.
Well, they see it all the time.
Yeah.
They see a team that likes to RPO on offense, and they also saw it. That is one similarity with Illinois.
The only thing
with the RPO game.
And that kind of
and Illinois kind of got away from it a little.
We talked a lot about,
which was a nice little countermeasure.
We talked a lot about eye discipline in that Illinois game, right? That's the one thing that would concern me a little bit about Rutgers, is if Nebraska's eye discipline hasn't gotten any better since 2 weeks ago, that RPO game could be a little troublesome, because that Washington got caught in no man's land a lot with the RPO.
Yeah,
you'd have a guy kind of half rushing the quarterback, the back kind of slips out behind him.
It's funny. We talk about this in
Like they made bad decisions. They got just stuck in no man's land a lot.
We rep this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's funny you say no man's land, because I'll tell you, like if you talk to Quinn or any of those guys, I'm saying, hey, listen, if you get high hat and you feel like you're in a pass drop, get to your pass drop.
Mm-hmm.
You get down block and you want to fit in the run game, don't get caught in no man's land. Just make your mind up with aggression.
Yeah.
Right. So
you got to pick one.
Yeah, because the way the concept of how we play it is, if we get a run read and we're going to get, generally speaking, if we're going to be responsible for Q, our safety's getting into the box anyway. So he's coming down on that number 2.
Yeah.
Now they may complete it, but we're going to have to rally and tackle. But if we're both wrong together and we're aggressive, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it is. Do I rush? Am I caught in the middle? Do I want to turn around and retrace?
A lot of Washington caught in the middle.
Which you don't, right? The only time you want to turn around and retrace is if it's a screen.
Yeah.
So if you're pot committed, shove.
Yeah.
So I mean I agree with that, but they see it a ton.
They do.
And Dylan is really good with the RPO game. So I imagine we've heard some talk about Scout this week.
Yeah.
And how good they are in terms of a competitive standpoint. Like this is one of those games where it could pay dividends. At least as I think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little myopic, but I'm thinking if I was going to approach it like this, I have guys on that competition squad, or they still call it scout team, that are really, really good in some areas and competitive. I think they can give good looks.
Yeah. And
a lot of those offensive concepts they see running the football.
Yeah.
They see. Now, can they stop it? That's all. But there won't be this.
No surprises.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to hear like we hear in some post games where it's like, well, we thought, hey, they were playing man, and so they were trailing jet motion. Then they decided, well, they're outflanked, so they're going to they're just going to roll down into the box. You may see some of those in-game adjustments, but I'm not sure what Rutgers is going to do stylistically with what we've seen over the first 4 games. That's going to be their countermeasure.
Yeah.
So I would be curious to hear post-game, okay, well, we thought this, and they did this.
Yeah, I'm also really curious, and we can talk about this in the next segment. I'm really curious about Rutgers quarters coverage that we've heard quite a bit about, and kind of how they like to play their pass defense, because first thing I think of when I hear quarters coverage is like, okay, Dylan has kind of diced up zones this year. And yeah, you're going to make them make intermediate throws. Those are the throws that Dylan, I think, has been best on this year.
Remember what I said on Monday about the weather?
Yeah, that's going to matter.
So he's been a touch guy.
Yeah, he's got
in finding those little bucket shots.
Yeah.
Will those still be available
with the wind
on Saturday? I'm in complete agreement with you about picking those teams apart, but it's been more of the finesse. I'll be curious to see what the wind is actually doing.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think you're right in one sense. There are some areas where I think it's been a little different. So I want to get to that coming up. Coming up on the show today, though, we've got Ben McLaughlin. He's part of the Husker Sports Network. Your guy, Benny Mack. He'll be at 8:45. We got Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. 9, we've got Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. And 9:45, we wrap up the show with Bobby Darren, who covers Rutgers for 24/7 Sports. At CB, I'm Ravi. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You know, I share with the guys my experience of playing with a guy like Peyton Manning who, you know, they're going to score a lot of points. So the defense is going to be on the field a lot more, and teams are going to try to do the best they can to keep a high-powered offense off the field. So teams are going to run the ball and try to get us in third and short so our pass rushers can't go out there and pass rush and, you know, dominate the time of possession. And when you know what teams are going to try to do to you, it helps you a little bit during the week with preparation and knowing what you're going to get. So, you know, our guys are ready for it, and they know teams are going to try to come out and run the ball and have a steady clock.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. If you're out there driving, remember to wear your seatbelt. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only when worn and properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We're going to see what clicks for Nebraska on Saturday.
Yeah.
See what I did there? A little.
Yeah, but I'm dumb.
No, so you were talking about before the break. You were talking about how Dylan's kind of been more of a finesse passer, and I agree with you for the most part. The one place where it seems like he has let it rip a little bit more is intermediate throws, middle of the field. Outside the numbers, for sure.
I mean, like the one he threw to Fedoni?
Which one?
It was pretty touchy.
I mean, he's not putting a lot of air under it, obviously, because that's not going to work in the middle of the field. I'm not saying he's out there looking like Brett Favre in the late 90s, but more so than outside the numbers and down the field, it seems like he's I guess I don't know how much the wind affects those types of throws compared to the ones that are in the air a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know what the weather conditions are going to be like on Saturday either. If it's like what the forecast says it might be, it is certainly going to be interesting how Nebraska tries to play that.
The wind was weird in West Lafayette with when it decided to kick up, right? It kind of died down.
Because it wasn't consistent?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And sometimes, BMAC and I were talking about this a little bit, like, third down, it might be kind of super swirling, and then a couple minutes later, it might just be super still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just weird when the wind kicked up. Now, we thought you were going to get remnants from the hurricane, the hurricane.
Yeah.
But I think it obviously sprinkled a little bit, which was NBD, but the winds were sporadic. I think Memorial Stadium is vastly different because anybody that's played there, I think one of the surprises that they'll come away with outside of Nebraska nice, and the fans said a lot of nice things to us, was the wind is different.
It's like low-key kind of tricky.
Yeah, and I usually, I'll what's the word I'm looking for? I'll defer to Jess because she's on the field. Because a lot of times what we see with the flags
is not
what's really happening.
Yeah.
So it is different. So I think Sharpie asked her probably a handful of times a game what the wind is doing, because sometimes the flags, it's pretty misleading.
So that, I mean, dealing with what they did in West Lafayette last week, I'm imagining more challenging than dealing with a consistent like heavy wind.
Yeah, and I think it affects passing more than kicking most times.
You think?
And quarterbacks do have to adjust with the wind,
yeah,
and with going against. But I mean, it's definitely something that Coach Rhule pays attention, because we've heard at least
he's brought it up several times,
at least 4 or 5 times since last year, playing the wind conditions and watching guys like Coach Ferentz.
And I'm not worried about the rain so much as the wind.
Yeah,
he says that a lot.
So I mean, we'll see if it's an issue or not. I still don't get how it's going to get to 93, but
it started to come down a little bit. I looked this morning, I saw a high of 89. Like it's starting to chill a little bit. I don't know. Maybe
is this all of a sudden going to spike one day?
I mean, it's been weird. It was what, 70 2 days ago, and then
56 this morning when I left.
85 the next day. I don't know, man. Doesn't feel like October, but that's all right.
This is not going to be a weather game anyway.
Well, I mean, I certainly hope not. That doesn't feel like if it ends up being a weather game, that doesn't seem like things went the way Nebraska wanted them to.
I just don't see I don't know. Maybe some of it is looking at the total. But I don't expect a ton of points, because I don't know how much Nebraska is going to have the ball, number one.
Okay.
And then the efficiency. I told you, Blake had one of the greatest responses ever about red zone and getting inside the numbers.
Yeah, the points per red zone possession,
and how many times you get there. Yeah,
percentage.
I mean, let's hope that this is the game that the dam breaks. But I'm totally with him about, the narrative surrounding Nebraska's red zone offense it's not quite accurate yet.
Yeah, I think it's a little misleading there for sure.
Shoot, Trav said it was 95 in North Platte yesterday.
Yeah, that's awful. What was it here yesterday? Like mid-80s?
It wasn't 95. I don't even know if it was 85.
It certainly was not 95. That's rough out there.
That's incredible. Oh, stop. It ain't that far. It's 4 hours.
That's out there. It's out there in our friends in central Nebraska.
Believe me, I remember we took a boot in the rear end out there. I know exactly where it is.
I've made a road trip to North Platte for high school football before.
Yeah.
Played good old Danny Woodhead in the state semifinals.
Yeah, I think Tilford just scored again. I'm well aware.
That's not a super fun place to play.
No.
That crowd. A little bit of a hornet's nest.
That crowd was lit too.
There was a moment where I was like, we better get on the bus pretty quick here after this one.
I did get one nice piece of barbecue though.
Out at North Platte?
Yeah, the fans were really cool, and they're like, "Hey, swing by our tailgate." And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. But so one of the guys, actually it's Brett that calls us sometimes.
Yeah.
From out there in North Platte, like he brought me a little piece of, I don't know what it was. I put it in my car and I ate it after. What?
It's like a piece this big. You can't just eat it right there. You won't even eat that before a game.
You don't know how sauce and mesquite and hickory is going to bother your stomach. What's so? Wow. I know my body, man. You just
No,
never
that's
know.
fair. That's fair. I just, I didn't. I thought it was like whole meals. I thought maybe you could like just have a bite.
That's a long way from home.
It is. No, I know. I've been there.
You know what I mean? Oh yeah. I wasn't going to do what you did.
Nobody should do what I did. I would not. 0 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend.
Yeah, bless your heart.
Don't order that on Amazon. Travis says it is out here. He said he's vouching for me. It's out there a little bit.
Oh, that's all right.
Listen, if you're past Kearney, like it's kind of out there. It's on the other half of the state.
Is that the halfway point?
About, I think. I don't know.
The whole central western Nebraska thing, having folks that actually live in western Nebraska, I'm very sensitive to, so we need to get it right.
No, I understand. That's why I called North Platte Central Nebraska, because it's, you're only 4 hours out. Maybe North Platte's closer to halfway.
So, and I was
because it's 8 across the state, right?
Before Big Red Wrap Up, Jay Moore goes, "Yeah, I was out in your neck of the woods yesterday."
Mm-hmm.
And for a second, I thought he was like, "What were you doing in Omaha?"
Yeah,
man, I was talking about Gothenburg. I was like, but then I knew he was golfing. I was like, my neck of the woods. Eh?
You come up to West Side today? What's up?
He threw me for a curveball.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I think so. Do you count it? This is a dumb question. Do you count it from like Omaha through the Panhandle, or you count it like Omaha through the other part of the state, like the cut-in? You know what I mean?
Oh, you're talking about where if you're
like
looking
if it's
at
halfway,
on a map?
Yeah.
The cut-in, so where the 90-degree thing is?
Yeah. Because if you go to the Panhandle, it's a lot further. Like halfway point's further west.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I always kind of think about
topography is not my thing.
You're not a cartographer?
No. Did I say topography? Is that close?
I think it's
similar. Could I get away with it?
You get away with that.
Thank you.
No, it's just the study of maps here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I do always wonder that though. It's like, does the Panhandle count as like counting half the state?
I am a little flummoxed over 95 though.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about.
Shannon, right while we're finishing this segment, I need you to Google what it was here yesterday in Omaha.
I think it was like 84, 83, 84.
Can I go back to something though?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean
the passing game.
Yeah.
Are you excited or you're like, man, because the self-control thing, the running the football versus being able to take your shots. Washington got both, but they weren't scoring.
Yeah.
So you feel like you better be pretty disciplined with what you want to do once you get close.
Yes.
I think that'd be like, you better have an idea of what you want to do.
In the red zone, you better have an idea of what you want to do, because you're going to get chances.
Because they got their shot plays.
Yeah.
They ran the ball, but they didn't score.
Yeah. And we talked about this, I think, on Monday, where Rutgers, you're going to be able to exploit them for some explosive plays. We saw both in running and passing game with Wisconsin. They got both. They weren't able to score on those explosive plays. Is that something that Rutgers can sustainably do, is keep people out of the end zone on explosive plays? Because if I'm digging into the numbers a little bit, I think there's a reason why some of their why their red zone attempts is pretty low. Because I think sometimes they are scoring on those explosive plays, right?
Yeah.
And so you're just not having a red zone attempt because you're scoring from further out. The other thing is, can they replicate what they had against Washington for red zone success versus what they had in the first 3 games of the season, which was 5 out of 6?
Can you run the ball in the red zone on a condensed field when you're probably not going to use a ton of QB run game too?
And what does that quarter's defense look like when it's a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage?
Looks more like man.
Google's telling me it was 81 yesterday.
Ooh, 14 degrees warmer? That's way out there in North Platte.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And
I never get those right during Bang Bites. I feel like I'm scrambling rhythmically. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
You always throw Twitch in there.
Is Twitch a thing?
It is a thing, but we don't stream there.
Okay, so scratch Twitch.
No more Twitch.
There's one of those T words.
Twitter.
Okay, what else?
Facebook.
Got that one.
YouTube.
Got that one.
That's it.
What about the Google and Spotify?
Google doesn't really exist anymore for podcasts.
Okay, they're
so
out.
Mostly Spotify, Apple.
Well, how come you don't feel like just saying, "Hey, stop saying that"? You're typically in here.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not paying like a ton of attention.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. That's actually fine.
I mean, you know,
that's why I probably don't mind working around you.
Usually,
unlike Shane wanting me to cut commercials over the free air, but
doing some other stuff. You
it's
know,
neither here nor there.
Kind of just typing away.
Sorry about that. No, you're not.
I don't think he is sorry.
Hey,
I don't think he's sorry at all.
Do you think? I got a question.
Yeah, I might have an answer. I don't know.
Well, the whole sorry thing got me. Sorry about that.
No, sorry about that.
I'm not apologizing for like running around, coming in from practice, knowing that the Astros lost.
Mm-hmm.
Am I cool with that? I hate the Astros.
Yeah, no, I don't
love Jake Meyer. Hate the Astros.
The Astros can kick sand. Like
it is. So where are they on like the list of
kick rocks? I was doing pound
sand and kick rocks.
Yeah, they can kick sand.
Gets a little messy.
Is it because of the whole cheating thing?
Yeah, I think, and the fact that had they played in 7 straight,
they've been around too much. Familiarity breeds contempt.
I don't know. We're not mad at the Chiefs.
Some people are. A lot of people are.
Oh, I am.
A lot of people hate the Chiefs.
Oh, I
don't.
do.
A lot of people hate the Chiefs.
I think a lot. I don't know about that.
Hate might be strong. A lot of people are sick of the Chiefs.
Well, I think
I don't know. Every week I hear something about, the officials are rigging the game for the Chiefs. So
I think that's Taylor Swift. I don't know if that's the Chiefs.
Maybe, but if it wasn't Taylor Swift, I feel like it'd be something.
Pat Mahomes is not unlikable.
I don't think so. But let's not forget, we made Steph Curry unlikable for a second in this world too. So
at least that had some merit.
Taylor Swift, by the way, she's the absolute best thing about that organization.
No, it's not. Wow, you can tell that's a dude that hates the Chiefs. So people were mad at Steph for the way that he was changing how little kids viewed the game.
That's not his fault.
Launching through. What I'm saying is, it wasn't a personality thing. I don't think with Steph. We got mad at two things: the fact that he changed, the kids thought that they could shoot 33 feet 3-pointers, and that they would chew on their mouthpiece. It wasn't his personality.
But at the same time, we're not mad that Pat Mahomes is like, you don't have to set your feet when you throw the football.
He's not unlikable.
I don't think he is either.
He doesn't say very much. He
doesn't say a lot.
Yeah, he's for as
quiet.
much as people put the mic in his face.
Doesn't say a lot.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty buttoned up.
You know, because it would be easy for him to flub up, but he doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if I was that good at anything.
I think people either like or dislike Taylor Swift. And, maybe they hate on Kelsey.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is a likable figure.
I think Andy Reid is pretty universally likable. I love Andy Reid.
But unless you're an Astros, nobody was cheering for the Astros.
No, not a soul. They're kind of, they haven't risen to the level of the Yankees, but the Yankees
I don't know, man.
Well, I think there's more vitriol with the Astros, though.
Yeah.
The Yankees is kind of just like that constant in your life. They're like, I don't really like this person, but they're just here.
Isn't this just how you drew it up, though, with the Royals and the Tigers in the postseason?
I had the Royals. I picked them in the first round.
No.
I liked them over the Orioles.
That's crazy.
I don't think they're going to be able to score enough to beat the Yankees.
I don't know. The Yankees. So, you're probably right. Conventional wisdom. But remember, I said all along, the Yankees would be the one team that I could see winning it or being one and done. It wouldn't surprise me either way.
The Yankees are weird, too, because outside of the two main guys in their lineup, Soto and Judge, they don't hit a lot either.
No, that lineup is not good.
And so...
No, and I can say that out loud.
If you can navigate, and I get that's like, well, yeah, just navigate around two of the best hitters in baseball. I get that. But that lineup is workable outside of those guys.
And you see that a lot in the postseason.
Yeah.
Like how outside of the Orioles, how many people are pitching to Bobby Witt? That's neither here nor there.
That's dumb.
Wow.
That's dumb.
But are people
don't pitch to Bobby Witt.
You have to pitch to Ohtani in that lineup, but why would you?
Because that lineup's significantly
Why would you pitch to Judge?
I would never. I wouldn't even if I had to pick one, I'd be like, hey, Soto, you try and beat me because I'm not letting Judge. I'd try and get around both of them, but obviously that's
at least
more
Soto's
difficult.
more apt to walk.
Yeah, but that's a little more difficult than just pitching around one guy. But I'll take my chances with Soto.
Do you trust Garrett Cole?
Not really. He doesn't. I don't really have a good reason for it. Just gut reaction. That doesn't strike me as if I hand the ball to this guy, I feel really good.
Yeah,
I feel fine.
This is like old school.
Yeah.
This is like how I grew up. Late 70s, early 80s.
You like the scores we're seeing?
Yankees, Royals.
Oh, yeah. George Brett days?
Yeah.
George Brett, Reggie Jackson?
Yeah. Steve Balboni.
Yeah. It's right in your wheelhouse.
Do I like this? Do I like the scores? Yes.
Like how the games are playing out?
Yeah.
Not a ton of homers.
I told Shane and coming in, and I get hockey. But they're very similar. There's very few things that are better than postseason baseball.
You know what's funny? And I think this is similar between the two.
Gary hit that home run. Like, I don't know, man. Like postseason, and it's because I am
you're a baseball guy at your core.
But because I think baseball is ridiculous. Because baseball is totally a game of being good all the time. Sometimes isn't even good enough. You have to be good at the right time.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference.
That's baseball.
That's the difference, especially between the regular season and the postseason, right? The regular season.
Trust me, I'm a Kershaw guy.
If you're good,
I know his career 4.49 ERA and 13-13 in the postseason.
If you're good in the
regular 500 isn't bad, but not that I memorize Kershaw stats in the postseason.
It's not weird or anything. Because Like
I bet you his ERA is exactly 4.49.
So there's two things there. One, I think hockey and baseball are similar in that, to me, they have the biggest leap between their regular season and postseason in terms of my enjoyability of them. Like postseason baseball and postseason hockey are, to me, have the biggest gap between that and the regular season. But the other thing is, baseball is weird because it's such a like a grind during the regular season, and then all of a sudden it's a sprint in October. And that's where you get you can be, if you're good most of the time, you'll be good in the regular season, right? It'll work out. You'll hit
100%.
300. You'll have 100%. A 3.0 ERA, whatever, right? You get to the postseason, that's where you have to be good at the right time.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's super weird.
Like, how are the Orioles like booking tee times?
Yeah, I don't know. Because I think that's a better team over the course of the regular season.
I think they got healthy too late though.
Yeah, to like kind of come together.
But it was just weird watching them. Remember when they were like 22-14, and I'm like, it doesn't seem like the Orioles are great, even though they're. And I think that was exactly their record too. It was like 22-14 or something like that.
And they were in first place at the time.
Yeah,
and,
I don't know, but whatever happens with the Yankees would not surprise me one bit.
Yeah,
you could tell me anything. I do wonder, though, if the Guardians' offense can score enough, be consistent enough.
Can the Tigers pitch enough?
Apparently, it doesn't matter. Listen to what I'm telling you. Being good at the moment, that is totally AJ Hinch.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen guys...
I told Hap they should call him AJ Witch. They're just saying his name wrong.
It's October, spooky season. You got to watch out. It is weird. You know, the being good all the time versus being good at the right time. There is no place that's more evident than pitching in October.
Yeah.
Like, that is one where you have guys come out of the, like, you'll remember guys' names for years and years and years after it happened that were nobody major leaguers in the grand scheme of things. They're like, oh man, they had this moment in the postseason.
Come on, they're all over the place.
Just littered. Especially
baseball.
Pitchers.
Yeah.
Especially pitchers. Like, you get some with hitters too. You got your Shane Spencers of the world or whatever. But you'll remember pitchers who just came through.
If you're a Dodgers fan, do you know who I think of?
For a hitter?
Yeah.
Give me an era.
A couple years ago.
Justin Turner?
He ain't a Dodger. He did it to the Dodgers.
Oh, that's right.
Freaking Soler.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
who
is this dude?
Where'd that guy come from?
No.
Or like,
it might be this year, even though he was supposed to be good.
Yeah.
Who quietly has kind of had a bounce back? You're talking about the reclamation projects for pitchers.
Yeah.
Jerickson Profar.
Yeah.
Like, was supposed to be really, really good.
Yeah, he was like the best prospect in baseball for 2-3 years.
And
then just never really got it.
Situationally, though, that lineup is pretty good. I'm glad I was able to give you guys the free picks of the Braves, though. That was my favorite. I'll take it.
I'm trying to.
How about Fried? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Fried was like fried. Throw a strike. God, couldn't believe it. Like, you're nibbling and nickeling and diming. It's the first inning. He was fortunate to get out of that jam.
Yeah, you got to throw some strikes there, bud.
Yeah, zip it. Now we got to see the Fathers.
They're your favorite.
God, I can't see.
You love the Padres.
It's going to be intense.
You like the Padres.
And it gets me fired up because I can't stand those guys.
More or less than the Giants?
Probably less because they don't win near as much. I mean, remember, the Giants were every other year, and they were cooking LA.
So you like the Giants less than you hate the Giants more.
I hate the Giants more than the Padres.
Yeah, Padres haven't really won that much.
Yeah, there's only really 3 teams that I hate, and one franchise I actually like. I envy the way that they're ran, but I still hate the team. And
Padres, that's Giants,
Cardinals. Yeah, that's it.
You're not the Astros?
I mean, I hate the Astros, but it's not like those 3. I don't see the Astros enough.
Okay.
Or they don't see the Astros enough.
So you're not.
I mean, we saw them twice.
They don't live in your neighborhood, so you're all right.
No.
Yeah.
But the Padres, the Cardinals, and the Giants.
No, you don't want to know a random guy that still sticks in my head that seemed like he was the best player in baseball for like 2 weeks every once in a while in October?
Who's that?
Travis Hafner. When that
was back when they were the Indians.
When that guy was mashing, you're like, oh, God, is he the best player in baseball?
Dude, his frame was pretty sweet.
Ben McLaughlin coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
The teams that win championships, and you hear the older players talk about it, that won here in the 90s and those things, you know, they always, with Ron Brown being on our staff, he always talks about, you know, the peer pressure of being in the locker room. And that's the most important thing. Coaches can say anything, right? But if it's coming from Ty Robinson, if it's coming from Giff, if it's coming from Ben Hart, when it comes from those guys, it means a lot more, right? Because those guys are in the locker room. They have closer relationships with each other than they do with the coaches. So it means a lot more when it's coming from your peers.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Ben McLaughlin from Husker Sports Network. What's up, Ben?
How we doing, fellas? Good morning.
B-Mac, how we doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm living and breathing, so I can't complain. Everybody's where they need to be this morning, preschool, daycare, so we're happy.
Hey, can anybody carry an equipment piece of luggage like I can up and down some stairs?
No, when we needed a color analyst, there was a lot of things we were looking for on a resume, and that was pretty high up there. And that was the first box you checked off. The style and grace in which that happened is unmatched, unparalleled.
Hey, next time, tell me I'm taking the long way up the stairs too, and I have that huge elephant trunk. You guys were like practically at the bus, and I'm clunking up the stairs. I was like, I feel like that was a trap.
So the funny part was I was packing the other suitcase, and Andrew was with me. So our back was to you when you banged the door coming out. And Andrew goes, "What was that?" And without looking, I go, "Oh, it was just DB. We're good."
Oh, shoot. You love babysitting. It's fine. It's totally fine. I always joke with Ravi that you're as good of an Android user as I am, and you've been an Apple guy your whole life, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. I've become a Swiss Army knife without signing up for one, which is good. Being well-rounded individual is never a bad thing.
We don't have to get into what it was about, but I felt so much pressure and shame. I couldn't respond to the group text yesterday. I did not want to be the guy.
Well, that's okay. And to be honest, when I was typing it out, I felt like there was an immense amount of pressure. So don't feel bad.
Anywho, we're just going through randoms, and we're going to get to all the Huskers in the postseason in baseball, which is pretty sweet. But sans my man Schwelly now, which, by the way, God darn it, do I hate the Padres. B-Mac, are you haunted by any random postseason heroes? Baseball is such a funny sport. You're all over it with the commentating with Sharpie. I say it's not always about being good all the time. It's about being good at the right time. It's crazy how many Randy Arozarenas we have out there.
Madison Bumgarner. Dude went absolute Herculean mode against the Royals in 2014.
Jared Wright. I thought of that one yesterday.
Yeah. Oh man, Brandon Moss. Right? There's another name that you haven't heard of in a while.
You want to go way back, Jim Leyritz?
Oh, yeah, Jim
What's
Leyritz.
What's that guy doing right now? Where's Brandon Moss right now?
I think he's
Thursday?
Working at an AutoZone.
How cool is it, though? And I know we had to cross Jake off the list, too. But how cool is it, though, to see and Povich? Gosh, they were dropping like flies yesterday, B-Mac. What are we going to do?
Yeah, but to your point, it's been really cool. Like, Jake Myers was a great Husker, and I think most people remember him as how dominant of a Sunday starter he was at Nebraska. Not with the offense or the defense. He was a good defender, and he could hit a little bit. But when you looked at him, you're like, yeah, he's one of those really good college baseball players, but he's just not a guy that projects real well. Like if you're standing him up next to Scott Schreiber, who ironically enough was in the Astros system, and you're going to go, which one's going to be the better pro? Everybody's taking Schreiber, even with the injury issues. So what Jake's been able to do to develop into an everyday MLB center fielder, and for the Astros, no less, like if we're talking about the Athletics, I mean, me, you, and Ravi could put together a skill set that maybe could compete in Oakland. But
don't hate Benny Mac. I can mash.
Well, that's good because I'm a wiry leadoff hitter, so we're off to a good start. I think what Jake's been able to do has been super impressive. But then you think about Schwelly, and not only his path to the majors just on an escalator with how fast it's happened, but you got to remember this dude had Tommy John surgery post Nebraska, and he's already found his way to be not only at the big club, but they put the ball in his hand in the biggest game of the season for Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he was up to the task with 7 innings and only allowed a run. So it's been really cool. And then even just kind of having some side chatter with those guys to bring it back to Nebraska during all this, it's been really fun and really cool. But as you said, Damon, it's the wrong teams are winning to get this run advanced a little bit further. But it's been a really cool season for Husker baseball fans.
Hey, do you forget that Cade is only 24? It seems like his major league journey has been forever, and he's still just 24.
You know, I remember when we played Maryland, this was a couple of years ago, and he was pitching at AAA at the time, and he came down to watch the Huskers and the Terrapins place, which wasn't far from where he was staying. And he was utterly dominating at that point. Like, I think his ERA was under 2. His strikeout to walk ratio is always elite, but I think it was like eye-popping level at that time. And ever since about that time, we've been waiting for the Orioles to call him up. Now there are some situations in Baltimore with, you know, the signing of Corbin Burns and some of those other pieces that led to the great season that they had that maybe slowed that process a little bit. But it's been awesome to see Cade. And that night that Povich and Schwelly pitched against each other was just magical. It was really, really cool. Will Bolt was there in Baltimore and was on both TV broadcasts. But you're right, Povich from going from a JUCO in Arizona to a first-team All-Big Ten school in Nebraska to then being drafted and then, you know, doing his thing in the minor leagues to get to where he is. It's been unprecedented, the season that former Huskers has had.
I know we wanted to see a little bit more of Jake Meyer, but we were talking earlier. I don't think either of us are too upset that the Astros aren't playing anymore.
I'm not.
I'm not crying about it now when I think about Myers. It does make me a little sad, but hey, that's a franchise that hasn't exactly suffered over the years. So one early departure in the playoffs isn't gonna hurt my feelings.
Yeah, them having not suffered and them being insufferable is not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
B-Mac, before we get to Nebraska football, we were making the comparison, and maybe not so much, and maybe the Mahomes thing will let us get into Rhule here in a sec, but who's more universally disliked, do you think, the Astros or the Chiefs?
Man, and this is a hard one because I'm a Chiefs fan.
I know it.
The Chiefs never have outright cheated and got caught, but
they just have Brittany and Jackson.
Tough hangs.
Oh man, you had to go there. You had to do it.
Well, I can't take credit for it. It was my man Shane 402 on X. But between Taylor, Brittany, and Jackson, because Mahomes is really in my opinion, for his stage, is really likable.
Well, and then you throw in his dad, right? Rashee Rice, who was turned into a really nice player before the knee injury, had his troubles in the offseason. Look, I get it. Like, I'm not around a lot of other Chiefs fans that are psychotic as I am. And so a lot of my friends like other teams, and I completely understand it. If I wasn't a Chiefs fan, I'd feel the exact same way. So I completely understand it. But to answer the question, I'm going to say the Astros just because they've never cheated, but we're in the same breath, what I think is saying something. And I'm going to be honest, that I lived through the Brody Croyle, Tyler Palco era. So I didn't ever think I'd get to the point to where we were threatening the Patriots for most disliked team in football.
I'm just going to give you a shout out, Ben, because you know a quarterback that played for the Chiefs before Mahomes that wasn't Alex Smith. Bless your heart. People go from Mahomes to Todd Blackledge, and that's about it for some Chiefs fans. I'm like, wait a minute, do you even like those guys?
I was a big Elvis Grbac guy personally.
Hey, I was just about to say, Ravi, I didn't offer a fun fact when I agreed to come on the show today, but since you mentioned the names, the first player jersey I owned of any league of any team was Elvis Grbac.
I'm kicking you out of the family.
Incredible.
You're out.
I love it.
You are absolutely that big long like. Oh my gosh, really, B-Mac? Really?
You know why I liked him?
I was like 4.
I liked him because he was a backup for the 49ers, and then he went over to the Chiefs, and so I was like, oh, Elvis Grbac, great.
Yeah.
Hey,
right.
Speaking of family, B-Mac, I do love the fact between me, you, Jess, Greg, like it's a pretty tight-knit unit, and obviously Jason and Russ and Josh, super likable. How cool is it? And maybe this is just me being sentimental. How cool is it that, like, kind of how our unit has to function and kind of rally, that we get to see it. We're right now watching a team unfold where it's like their superpower is their team chemistry, kind of their culture. How many times we hear Coach Rhule talk? Like, he talks about family, and we saw the snippets from Chasing 3. Like, that's kind of cool to watch unfold, where you see a coach talk about family, and I think he genuinely means it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're invested in anything, as you are Matt Rhule in Nebraska football, you can't help but feel that way. And I think that's why maybe you made the correlation to our broadcast team, is because we're all so heavily invested in it that we care about it, and we'll do extraordinary things to make it work. And I think Matt Rhule's the exact same way. Like, there's been so many times where I've listened to a pregame, a postgame, a post-practice, a press conference clip from Matt Rhule, and I'm going, oh, why would you burn that clip right now? Why would you save that one for later? And he always has the trump card. Like, listening to him speak in the Chasing 3 series, listening to him speak in the press conference, he always has not only something to say, but something of value to say, something that's always going to perk the ears of his audience, which is his players. And it's always so good. And I don't know if it's off the cuff, like if he's just coming up with this on the spot, or he's spending time thinking about what he wants his message to be. But he's always saying the right things, the right way to his players. And I think that's contributing in a massive way to that culture, that family feeling that you're talking about, because you can't help but feel that when you hear him speak as passionately as he does to his players.
Ben, I'm wondering, because a lot of times we hear, whether it's coaches or whoever, talk about family, or they talk about their culture or whatever, right? I mean, PJ Fleck comes to mind with the Row the Boat, and these guys that kind of try and build their reputation and programs around culture. And a lot of times from the outside looking in, we go, that's kind of cheesy, or though that seems fake or whatever. What about Coach Rhule in Nebraska because I think it feels genuine. It seems genuine. I agree with you. But what about it makes it seem that way, as when it's really easy to be sort of jaded about those types of things?
That's a really good question, Ravi. And I think it's kind of a complicated question to answer, because everybody is going to have their own perception on what's real and what's phony, right? Like, to everybody outside of our state border, they'll probably have a different thought on it, outside of maybe Will Compton. Is going to have a different viewpoint on it than what we do here in Nebraska, because they haven't suffered the way that we have, right? Like, you look at how the games and the seasons have been ripped away from the calendar year over year over year. A lot of his players have felt that too. And so they need something to hold on to. They need something to start that proverbial snowball down the hill. And you're not just going to show up and start winning games, right? It's going to be done in the weight room. It's going to be done with their leaders. It's going to be done in the community. It's going to be done via the correct additions to your program. And the person that's in charge of it all, handling the puppet, so to speak, is Matt Rhule. And so, I think it's not only the power of his messaging, but it's what he's doing behind closed doors and behind the curtain that's contributing to this being authentic and genuine. It's not just him blowing smoke in front of a camera in a locker room. It's him kind of putting the cherry on the top of all the hard work done in the off season and since he's been here. So I think that's why it's coming off as genuine, is because, we're seeing guys like Coach Campbell, the strength coach, and the dividends being put in. You're seeing the finishing touches to the practice facility. You're seeing, what the messaging from new athletic director Troy Dane, and all the things are kind of making sense. And I think that contributes to what you're saying about it being authentic.
B-Mac, you can attest to this because you're sitting right next to me. I think that's the quietest that we've been with each other during half, because we were kind of at a loss for words. I looked at you. I said, I'm not even sure how to explain this or what I would say. But then we heard Coach Rhule talk to Jess, and he said, what he said about, hey, this is exactly what we need. This is in a close game. And as you know, that kind of changed my mood, right? I was like, hey, I think he's right. Like, they're moving the ball. At what point did you feel like, okay, just push through versus what is going on? Like, what was kind of going through your mind real time? Because, you got a great vantage point. I was going to say that. But, like, what was going through your mind real time?
If I'm being completely honest, it took me a little longer to get there than maybe you did if you heard Coach Rhule and was there. To me, it was after the first drive for Purdue. in the third quarter where I go, okay, they've kind of took their swing and they missed.
And they were doing it on broken. They were doing it on broken plays.
Exactly. Had they gone down and scored a touchdown, I'm probably feeling differently, and I think the team maybe would be feeling a little bit differently to cap that off. But exactly what you said, Damon. They took their swing and they did it kind of ugly, and they still missed. I felt really good about where Nebraska was at that point. I thought the way the defense was playing, and even through all the special teams blunders, which that's a polite way to put it, that Nebraska was going to find a way to not only win, but win comfortably. And then you just looked over at the sideline, and there was just no panic. Like you would watch Dylan warm up in between possessions, and he was just a cool customer. And that's the stuff that you can't see on TV that I think you and I try to articulate to people. Like, yeah, obviously the layered throws in between a linebacker and a safety make you excited. But what makes me equally excited is to see that nothing phases this dude. Like, whether you're playing Colorado in prime time, whether you're, in a weird game with Illinois, or people want to put their eyeballs in acid watching in the first half, like nothing seems to faze him at all. And that's been really, really calming, I think, as a fan and as somebody that watches from afar. Is there's just a certain amount of trust that we have, not only in Coach Rhule, but our quarterback.
Ben, so I like context for things. So I want you to try and think back for me, because there's been a lot of situations where Nebraska's started off in these sleepy games. Things didn't go early the way they wanted to, and then they're never able to get out of it. You were talking about the demeanor on the sideline against Purdue. How different is that from what you can remember in similar situations where Nebraska hasn't come out the back end?
Oh, it's wildly different, because I was on the sideline back then for those. Like, you can literally cut the tension with a knife when you're down there, and you can feel it start to turn, right? Like, I'm thinking of the Colorado game in Boulder when they hit the flea flicker touchdown, and you could just immediately feel everything tense up. And that's after I think they allowed 11 yards in the first half that day, and they hit one big play for like 98, and everything changed. I know Nebraska answered back with the Mo Washington swing pass after that, but it still didn't feel like Nebraska was still in control. It just felt like we were all waiting for that moment for the coin to flip, and it always did when you have that mindset. And I think that kind of contributed not only to the job that Matt Rhule had to do in changing that psychology, but it's one thing to feel it as a sideline reporter or as a fan, but when you could visibly look at the players and know that they're thinking the exact same thing, that's when it's a problem. And that's why it was a problem for so long.
B-Mac, I'm trying to kind of get a grasp on the Nebraska psyche, as you know I like to do during the course of the week, right? We talk all the time, hey, the presser said this and that, and it seems like Nebraska's kind of dialed in on making sure that Rutgers isn't a better version of Nebraska, right? That Schiano isn't a better version of Coach Rhule. And Coach Rhule's not going to compare the two, he and Coach Schiano, because of the reverence he has for him. But does it kind of feel like it's setting up like that with so many parallels in the program?
Yes. I actually had this same conversation with somebody yesterday, Damon, and I think it's something that we'll probably talk about a lot in our show on Saturday is, I feel like both programs right now, have the match, they have the tinder, they have the environment to start a fire, and they're both just looking to catch a spark. And I feel like Rutgers is really close to doing so. And I feel like with what Nebraska's done in the first month plus, that without hearing it from the coordinators yesterday, that this is a big game. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to say that. Like, both teams really want this one for what it would mean to their program. And when you look at what's happening in Piscataway with Coach Schiano and Rutgers, like, we almost felt that way when we were there a couple of years ago, that it was the same way. Granted, some circumstances have changed for them, But I do feel like there are so many parallels to where the teams are at and where they want to go from here that I don't have any qualm saying that I feel like Saturday's a big one.
You could kind of tell in the pressers the brevity and kind of the answers. It was like, and there's a big difference between 5-1 and using the bye for rest and how to elevate versus 4-2, trying to get some rest and trying to recalibrate. Right? Like it's a big difference between those two things.
There 100% is, because you don't want those subconscious questions in your mind when you're getting treatment or you're prepping for your next game. Because as I mentioned before, like the players and the staff, like they're human just like we are. If Saturday doesn't go their way, like you're crazy if you don't believe there's going to be some intrusive thought creep into their mind. Now what they do with that and how they handle it, could be completely different than in the past. But you would much rather just avoid that and win the game and stay the course. And as you said, Damon, be completely constructive in your bye week and focus on the right things, because you don't want any mental distractions for the back half of what's going to be a very tough back half of the season.
Ben, I'll get you out of here on this real quick. DB was talking earlier about kind of the family you guys have as a broadcast team. How cool was it to see Purdue kind of give a little bit of love to your guy Sharpie?
Well, it was unexpected, and that made it even better. When we walked in there Friday night and had that waiting for us, that was, I think it gave all of us who were there kind of a moment for pause and just reflection. Because now that we're halfway through it, and there was that Big Ten Network feature that kind of aired, people have been talking about it. Greg's kind of in the middle of it right now, where some of that attention's faded away. And he is still fighting every single day. Like, if people knew what he went through last week and this week to try and get ready for Saturday, like his battle is ongoing. And just to see somebody else recognize that and empathize with that, with the beautiful note and the hat that they left, and then the student section with the sign, it was amazing. It was really, really cool, and I know it meant a ton to him. So very, very thankful for Purdue for everything they did for Greg and for us. It really did mean a lot.
That's our guy, Ben McLaughlin. Benny Mack.
Hey, no more phony pin drops either, man. I know I'm in Lincoln this week.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Hey, I appreciate you being DB's weekend babysitter, so I don't have to.
Thanks, B.
The least I can do.
We'll talk to you later. That's Ben.
He pin dropped Lucas Oil. And on the group text, they're like, hey, don't send him that. He'll go there.
Wouldn't be the first time you went to the wrong stadium.
Knock it off.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, and we're brought to you by our friends at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they're on a mission to recruit 60 men in 60 days by October 30th. We're calling all men in the Omaha metro area to step up and become big brothers to many youths waiting for a mentor. Some of these kids have been waiting for over a year for a big brother, and more than half of those on the waiting list are boys. Get to mentoromaha.org to be a part of this initiative. And listen, even if you can't be a big brother, you can be a big sister or a big couple, or you can just support their cause at mentoromaha.org as well.
Kind of like our broadcast team.
Who's the big brother there? Sharpie?
No, he's like dad.
He's like the dad, and then Ben's the big brother,
and Jess is the big sister.
Your little brother?
Yes.
You're just the youngest out there, kind of bebopping around.
Sure. Sure.
Listen, I'm the youngest in my family, so I can say some.
I don't even know how it got to be that way, but
yeah,
it just was. You should have asked. I'm telling you, our TV setup on the
plane.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
He had to put my Wi-Fi in though. I couldn't figure it out. First of all, I'm not that dumb, but number one, I couldn't see it that great.
You gotta get your glasses.
He kind of had
get the readers,
and I didn't have my readers with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So he did this thing at the hotel with my computer because I wanted to make sure I could get the Central West Side game real time. That was very important. He did this thing where he looked at my internet speed, it had all these wheels. It looked like the inside of a grandfather clock.
Yeah, he was doing a speed check.
And he was like, "Oh man, 127 something." He goes, "You're humming. You should be good." I'm like, "Can I do that all the time?"
Whenever you want. Just go. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to do it right now for you. See, speed test.
So he went to the net. Yeah, I looked at it. It looked. Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. So we're humming too. We're cooking. We're at 240 right now.
And I'm like,
we're cooking with gas.
I need somebody to do that every time, but he could probably just teach me next time.
It's real easy. You just Google speed test and hit the button.
I don't think that's what he did.
He might have gone to a specific site, but you can. There's a bunch of.
It seemed like he was within my computer.
They're in the machine.
Zip it. I know, right? He's talking to me like I'm special. He's like, "Oh, you're acting that way."
Oh, how are the older guys going to take it?
I don't know. He had me set up though.
Hey, it's all good. It's good to have friends that can help you out. Yeah, it's good to.
And he's for as funny as he is.
Yeah.
He's very regimented.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does not jack around.
Just lockstep.
No, does not mess around.
He seems pretty easygoing.
I know, right? Like that would
fool me.
That's the duality of what makes him funny.
That would fool me a little bit.
Because I'm telling you.
And you seem kind of buttoned up, but you're all over the place.
Yeah. No, I'm only particular about some things.
I know. You're very particular about those
things. But 85%,
everything else, you're just like
85%, I'm like.
You're like, can you use my phone? Can you fix this? Can you run my computer?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know how to do anything. I was so mad. I was the only one that didn't get to go out.
Yeah.
For a good meal.
Because you're watching some football.
And I had, so I ended up door dashing sushi.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, that's a dicey call.
I know.
Door dashing sushi.
The time got away from me.
So it was like they were still open type situation?
Well, no, I just didn't want to eat certain things late.
Okay.
Because I knew we were leaving at 6, which was 5 your time.
Yeah.
And it was already 9.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to make sure everything is like done and passed by the time I leave.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to put a lot in there because it's a quick turnaround.
Sushi is something I'm very particular. I love sushi.
Well, I did look at like all the ratings.
You went through your reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
It worries me once you kind of take it out of the place, like out of the restaurant. You're like getting a delivery and stuff.
There was a Harold's.
I'd probably go a little safer.
As in chicken.
Yeah.
And I passed.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
I don't even know what a Harold's chicken is.
Oh, fudge. And there were
they don't have them here.
There were 2 steakhouses. I think they went to the Lafayette Brew Pub. They had Scotch eggs. And I looked at it on the menu and like they were like, "Hey, we can bring you something."
Yeah.
I thought about those Scotch eggs.
I don't even know what a Scotch egg is.
Oh, it's like a hard-boiled egg wrapped in sausage.
Oh.
I've smoked them with bacon around them. They're incredible.
I don't really like hard-boiled eggs.
So the first time I ever had them was like at Gate 25. This was probably 10 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
They used to be on the menu. They're insane.
Are they like breaded?
No. Well, you can't. People have there's all sorts of versions. So I've seen some people deep fry them.
A hard-boiled egg inside of a meatball, basically.
Yes. They're incredible.
That's a little dicey.
No, it's not.
I don't like hard-boiled eggs. So that's a tough spot for me to start. Yeah.
No.
Dude, the yolk gets all weird and dry and crumbly. Like I'm not trying to eat a hard-boiled egg.
Nobody can do that.
So I think
hard-boiled eggs.
They went to the brew pub. Some people went to go grab steak, and I ate $23 sushi.
Takeaway sushi.
It was good though.
Do you or any of the broadcasting team? Do you guys ever go to the movie with the team?
No, we don't do anything with the team.
Don't do it. Okay.
Except travel.
Except for travel.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And we're not really the team is the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like they go do their thing and we do ours.
Lock in.
Yeah. Although you can go in the dine, you can grab drinks and stuff.
Just not when they're having meetings. You got to stay on the other side of the hotel.
Yeah. I told you my practice run on the stairs.
You did. Yeah. After hearing your stadium stairs thing, it's probably a good thing you did a practice run at the hotel.
Full disclosure. They only had to go up the stairs once. I thought I was being smart, taking the other way and going down. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to let this huge thing going up the stairs. I want to go down. Little did I know when I went to the downstairs, there was going to be another up the stairs.
I mean, ultimately, you were going to have to end up, right?
Yep. And they only did it once, and I had to go down then the up.
That's what happens when you go down first. You're going to have to still go
because
up.
I felt like once I got to the concrete, there would be a ramp like normal loading docks.
It's all right.
And the equipment is heavy. Wait till it
is heavy. It is heavy.
I don't know how to pack it though, so I watch them pack and then I just carry. And I feel
got all
guilty.
the foam in there and stuff to keep it from people like you from breaking it.
Yes. That is 100% true.
It's all right. You know, it happens to the best of us.
It's fine.
You're happy to be back at home though now? You don't have to worry about
I don't love the 3:00 start though.
Why is that?
I think it's the absolute worst.
Why?
Because I'd rather be the middle of the day is the worst. Number one, our pregame show is 4 hours.
Yeah.
So that means I'm starting whatever 3:00 minus
11.
4 hours. Yeah, that.
So that means you're there at what, 9:30?
Yes.
So you're leaving at 8:30
at night.
No, the night. Or
Yeah.
The morning.
Yes.
That morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then so that's an all day thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather either be at night.
I mean, it's an all day thing at night though, too, isn't it?
Kind of. It's just pushed back.
But it's still. I mean, it's not like you're doing much beforehand.
So at least for a 7:00 kick, I'm gonna get back late.
3.
Yeah. Ideally, it's an early kick. Put it to you like that.
Okay. So like an 11. You'd rather wake up, get going, because do you guys 4 hour for an 11:00 kick too?
Yeah.
So you're there at 6?
Which is why the first bus left at 6.
Terrible. Terrible.
It's fine.
I'd try and get whatever gig was like, hey, can I start like closer to
But I
time?
literally was giddy when those wheels touched down at like 5:30 Saturday.
I know. Because you were hoping to get down by like 5:50.
Yeah. And the 20 minutes totally matters.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that's time to get
a little food before you start watching Bama, Georgia.
Yeah, I had a elite level steakhouse break me off a call, stop and got a tomahawk on the way. It was
Ooh. You had a little tomahawk on Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. You cook it yourself or they make it for you?
So he gave me one to take, but then they did one.
Oh, nice.
I was trying to get in and out. They overdid it. It's a fantastic spot.
Tomahawks are good.
Out there in old Ashland.
Oh, I've been out there.
Really? It's new. It's
the new one.
Yeah,
okay.
It's beautiful.
Because there's a couple places out there.
It was mob deep.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, no, I haven't been out to anywhere new out there. I'd try and.
I'm like, oh, is this what? And listen, I've never. I think I can say never. I've never been to an establishment post a game that close.
Yeah.
So I'm literally in public like a moving target.
Yeah.
And I stayed in the same spot. Except when I wanted to look at they had some. I was waiting for the to-go order, and they had like this meat that was chilled, and because they get it from Keneally's, and I was captivated by the aging process.
Yeah, like the dry age.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could get into that.
Yeah,
business.
I think I could see dry age in your own meat at some point. That seems like something you would do.
Yeah, 100%.
Right up your alley.
Wait till I figure out how to buy more vacuum sealing plastic. I suppose
Yeah.
I should Google.
I mean, probably.
But I don't want to order. Wait, can I just go to a store and get it?
Maybe. You'd have to go to you probably go to a butcher shop and ask them where they get it.
The vacuum sealing plastic?
Yeah.
Because I have the machine.
They would probably know. Be like, hey, I got a vacuum sealer. I need to get whatever.
Much as I use it, I'd like to get it in bulk.
Yeah, you might be best off. I bet like Restaurant Depot or somewhere has it. One of the like restaurant places.
Like right down here?
Yeah, one of the supply places. They probably have it. Oh,
Same.
yes. I don't know. I don't cook at home.
I know. That's why I can't figure out how you spent $300 at Costco and didn't get like a griddle or something.
Other stuff, man. Other stuff. We'll be back with Brian Edwards coming to next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
The way they're using the cream cheese to butter the bagel.
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. We're joined now by our guy, B. Edwards, Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, MajorWager.com. What's up, B?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Good. We're bringing you back to the stream next week, B. It's not as much fun without seeing your face. The heck with the delay.
He misses your bright, shining face.
I do. I told Shane, I said, I'm over this, man. I try to get in a good mood, and I can't even make fun of you not being able to turn the microphone on or anything.
Full disclosure, that's why he wants to do it. Is he wants to see you struggle with the button.
Hey, when you're as bad with technology as I am, I need a sounding board. All right, I'm
bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
I'm here for it because I'm equally as bad.
That's all right. We'll bring you back in the stream next week. We can see all of each other's beautiful faces again.
Oh, 2 of the 3 ain't bad.
B, let's start with the NFL tonight. Bucks, who are playing, I think, better ball than just about anybody could have imagined versus the Falcons. Bucks are a 1.5-point dog. What do you like?
Yeah, I like Tampa Bay here. Now, I normally don't take road teams on the short week, but I've done the Atlanta to Tampa flight. It's nothing, maybe 75 minutes tops. So I don't think the travel is any factor here at all. The Falcons are 0-2 ATS as a favorite this year. They're very fortunate to have won the 2 games that they won. I mean, they got special teams and a defensive touchdown last week. They only made it to the red zone once last week, only had 14 first downs. And Tampa Bay, had a bad performance against Denver, but bounced back nicely, stomped the Eagles. I like the Bucks plus 1.5.
I want to go to easily the worst line of the week in the NFL. And I don't think you're going to take the bait, but everybody's gushing over the Commanders and Daniels. And, Browns, I'm not even sure if they can get out of their own way. Somehow it's 3.5. It makes no sense. They're begging you to take the Commanders. What say you?
Yeah, I made it 7.5. So I absolutely
you agree,
love the Commanders.
Right? It's crazy.
That line is stinky, though.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. I don't understand this line at all. I guess that there's this. Look, the Browns' defense is good, but Watson, forget what he did at Clemson and with the Texans. This guy has no confidence. He's just been awful.
That's check down city. That's why they're gonna probably win.
Deshaun sucks. I don't know what to tell you. That guy's not good.
Right. There you go. That's it. And Jaden Daniels, man, right now, I know he's only 4 games into his career, but he's like top 5 in every quarterback stat, and he just looks fantastic. And I'm all over the Commanders -3, and I got it early on Monday, and it quickly moved to 3.5. I thought it was going to go to 4 or bigger.
It's the worst. It's the worst line.
3.
I applaud you. There's no way I could take the Commanders. It is because it looks too easy, but there's no way they would make that kind of mistake. The Browns stink.
That's what I think. And I'm taking all the bait. I'm hook, line, and sinker, man. Give me the Commanders.
I love it.
Let's stick with the NFL here for a second. A team that I think is a lot better than their opponent, and not a huge line either, is Vikings versus Jets. That's -2.5 for the Vikings, but it is in London. What do you do with that one?
Well, I'm all about the Vikings here. I made the big mistake of taking the Packers last week, which was obviously pretty dumb. 28-0 at Lambeau. Now they let them back in it, obviously, but they hold on. And man, the Jets looked awful last week. Now, that's kind of a recipe for disaster if you're going, well, they looked bad last week and this team looked great because, every week's a new week. But Minnesota just looks dynamite right now, and we have an enormous head coaching advantage. Give me the Vikings.
So let's go to Shane's Raiders. I'm still not sure what to make of them. Are they good? Are they not good? The Broncos with the surprise victory over the Jets. They're at home, less than a key number though, just 2 in the hook for the Broncos. What do you like?
So Bo Nix only had 60 passing yards last week, but unless I missed a fumble, and I don't think I saw a fumble in the box score, he took care of the ball. No turnovers the last 2 games, whereas he threw 4 interceptions the first 2 games, and that resulted in 2 losses. When you got a good defense and your quarterback's taking care of the football, which he has done in the last 2 weeks, that's a good recipe. And the Jets just don't. The Raiders, no Adams, and seemingly some chemistry issues. Give me the Broncos laying the small number at home, going for the 3rd win in a row.
B, let's switch over to college here, and I'm going to ask you, how high would they have to make the number before you take Clemson against Florida State?
You mean how high would they have to make it for me to take FSU?
Yeah. Because I'm not we're not at 14. We're not even close for me.
Right. Yeah, we're not even close, and it's not 100% fade of FSU. Clemson had the bad second half against Georgia, and I know they haven't played like the stiffest competition since then, but they have just been lights out.
Yeah, they've come around.
Yeah, they really have. And FSU's struggling. I don't think a whole lot of Brock Glenn. I just don't think the chemistry's right in that locker room. Clemson seems to be surging. I know it's a big number on the road, and that's normally not what I do. But, now if your number's 14.5, I buy the half point to the key number of 14. That's what I'm doing. I like Clemson.
I might buy it up to like 17.
Klubnik, actually, that offense actually looks explosive.
Clemson, yeah. Yeah.
B, if I could find some alternate lines, I would take Clemson. That's so much more than -14. If I could get plus money.
Sure.
This Florida State team is trash.
Right? Yeah. The Gators and FSU are really struggling.
Just playing in the mud. Just a couple of piggies down there.
All right, I don't know about this one, B. I'm curious to get what you made the number. Rutgers +7 on the road here with our dear old Nebraska U.
I made it pick 'em.
Mm.
And I like Rutgers. They're 12-5-1 ATS. Last 18 or all 18 games as a road dog during Schiano's second tour of duty. And they've been on the road once. They jumped on Vatek 14-0 in Blacksburg in the first quarter. Led 23-7 early third. End up winning after the Hokies rallied. But Kaliakmanis, who I was kind of harsh on in the offseason, he's making me look silly. 7-1 TDI&T ratio. But I'll own my mistake and back him to hopefully get a cover. Monangai, one of the best running backs in the country. And, obviously you guys all out there watched the game, but, I think most people around the country that just saw the finals don't realize Nebraska didn't score till 2:49 left in the third and got a late pick six as well. So kind of a misleading final with Nebraska last week. I like Rutgers +7.
B, let's go over to the ACC. Pitt and North Carolina. Pitt is a 2.5-point road favorite. What do you got?
Yeah, I got to go with Pitt here. They've had 2 weeks to prepare, and Eli Holstein, the Alabama transfer quarterback, is just playing outstanding. 67.4 completion percentage, 1,186 passing yards, 12-2 TDI&T ratio, and he's also got 189 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 5.0 yards per carry average. And UNC, back-to-back tough ones, they get 70 hung on them by James Madison, and then they lose a heartbreaker at Duke, and they're number 94 in the nation in pass defense, 93 in scoring D. Pitt's 5th in the nation in scoring, 48.5 points per game. I like Pitt -2.5 at UNC.
I'm glad this one's on your card. I asked Ravi about it. It's kind of flying under the radar for me in terms of it can reveal a lot to me games. Northwestern hosting Indiana, and apparently that's everybody's media darling in Bloomington.
And Signetti, if we don't get Kiffin, I'm okay. I know he's 63, but
he doesn't act like it. I'm telling you that right now.
Right? Yeah, he's got some fire. I would be okay if the Gators got him as our next coach. And Curtis Rourke did not play his best game last week. He threw 2 interceptions. They were -4 in turnover margin last week, and they still won and covered and won by 14 against Maryland. Maryland had to get a late touchdown to make it, they were down by 21.
Mm-hmm.
Northwestern, I just don't think a lot of them offensively. I know they've got a solid defense, but, again, here I'm laying double-digit chalk on the road, which is not like me, but Indiana's been hooking me up, and I'm going to stick with them. Give me the Hoosiers -13.5.
B, let me ask you this. Are you just totally over the hire from a smaller school to come to Florida after the Billy Napier experience? Are you dead set on finding a guy that's got power conference experience at this point?
Yeah. And I know Signetti will only have 1 year of Power 4 experience, but Indiana's been playing football since 1887, and they've never won 10, and they've only won 9 twice, and that was in 1945 and 1967. If you look at the rest of their schedule, I think Indiana's winning at least 9. But, yeah, we got McElwain. He had 3 years at Colorado State. That was a dud. Muschamp had no head coaching experience. And I love Muschamp, but, it just didn't work out. And,
Mullen had experience, though.
Yeah, Mullen did. Yeah, correct. And Mullen worked great for 3 years, and it didn't just a really bad 1 year, and then only G5 for Napier. Yeah, I want to get a proven guy. I want Kiffin, and maybe last week I lost on Ole Miss. I lost that battle and that bet, but maybe I got closer to winning the war. Get Kiffin to Florida. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping. So we'll see. But I'm okay with Signetti if we don't get Kiffin.
Hey, that's not a bad consolation prize. B, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate it. That's Brian Edwards, our Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com. Make sure you go check out his stuff over there. Coming up next, we got Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7, here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Jamari wants to go out and start. He has to outplay Cam in practice. He has to outplay James in practice. Nash has to outplay, Vincent. You have to outplay Riley and Sua. So it's constant competition all the time. It's constant competition all the time. And what you do during the week is what you're going to do on Saturday. So our guys understand the importance of practice.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. What's up, Bruntz?
Hello. How's it going?
Hello. How we doing?
Not bad. What's up?
So I'm gonna full disclosure, and Ben saw me do this at halftime when you told me that we need to wash our eyes out. I went to the bathroom. I put some hand sanitizer on my face. I scrubbed it. I washed it. I paper toweled down, and I went back to start the second half. How about that?
That's pretty good. They didn't produce like an engineering school. They didn't have like an eye wash station in there, like in case you get something in your eyes.
I did it though. But before we get too heavily into Nebraska football, like, do you have your? We were talking about the playoffs, and we've obviously got some excited colleagues that are happy. Do you have your Craig Counsell, your Jeff Supan, your Jarrett Wright? Who else? Rosario for the Braves. Like, baseball is weird, isn't it? You can be really good, but it's more about being good at the right moment, especially in the postseason.
Yeah.
You're who else? Like Alex Gonzalez.
Well, we mentioned Randy Arozarena earlier.
Dude, that's a great pull.
What was it? Who was the Giants outfielder when they won every other year? Was it Cody Ross?
Oh yeah. McLaughlin dropped Cody Ross, and I cringed because he was.
No, he said Brandon Moss.
Brandon Moss. Oh yeah, it was Brandon Moss. He said.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that Cody Ross still will never buy a beer in the city of San Francisco ever. Like that, he was very average, but found a way to turn it on in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great.
You know,
That's the one that comes to mind for me.
Christopherson has his Gene Larkin. All these diehard Royals fans. Was it Chris Young in 2015? Like, how is this dude getting everybody out?
Oh, yeah.
Are you enjoying the postseason without? Well, you're kind of used to it, but do you enjoy the? I didn't mean anything by that, Bruntz. Because we're inevitably going to choke as Dodgers. So I'm
catching strays out here. Well, I mean, you're used to it by this point, Bruntz.
Well, I knew you were going to say that though. So.
You don't like playing baseball in October anyway. It's fine.
Do you like the postseason?
I watch it a little bit more casually than I do the regular season. I mean, like I will tune into a game in the late innings on purpose. I don't really like get super hardcore into it, now, but maybe the next round I'll really kind of dive in a little bit more. The problem is it's like there's so much football going on right now that it's like, oh, there's baseball. I forget that sometimes. So that's probably a me problem in the fact that my team is dead and I basically haven't paid attention to baseball since June because that's what I do, right, Damon?
Yeah. And then you got DB over.
Sorry, Bruntz. Yeah. Hey, and full disclosure, like you ought to feel pretty. That comes from a good spot because like you're my resident. You're my on the road calming effect, right? It's like I know sometimes you're like, God, get away from me, but sometimes like being around your personality helps because you're not going to say much.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I take no offense to your question. It's okay.
To him just knifing you and then pouring salt in it. Here you go, bud.
Yeah.
I'm looking. It's called projection. I'm looking for. We have the Padres coming up, and so I'm pretty excitable over that because I hate San Diego to the core.
We had a text submission.
I picked the Dodgers. I picked the Dodgers to beat the Guardians of the World Series. So I'm pulling for your. Not pulling for them, but I believe in them.
Yeah, and I picked the Braves was my free pick last night, and I can't believe they let me down.
Yeah,
Fried was more like fried, considering he couldn't find the strike zone early. So it's like, what are we doing, bud? Like, this is a clincher. Can we get the ball over the plate and keep it in the yard?
The way that they entered the playoffs didn't really generate much confidence that they were going to do much. So.
Great, Bruntz. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Too bad.
That's awesome. Thank you for your support.
Oh, Bruntz. We had a text submission of Alcides Escobar as a random.
Yeah. Well, let me guess who would have put that out there.
I know a lot of Royals fans.
Fudge. Wasn't Mitch Sherman, I guarantee you that.
Could have been Sindelar. You don't know.
Oh, is he a Royals guy too?
Oh, yeah. Sindelar's a big Royals guy.
Bruntz, I thought the Chris Young was a great pull.
Chris Young's a really good pull. It's a very good pull.
There's no 2015 without Chris Young.
Wasn't he the guy that was like 6'10"?
Yeah, it's like it's the wrong blue and white team while you guys keep,
Didn't he have like a weird not a weird backstory, but wasn't he was like an Ivy League guy or something, right?
I think so. He was like 6'10". He was like a soft tossing 6'10" guy, which is weird.
Look at that guy.
And then I think he was an Ivy Leaguer. I think he went to. I'm gonna have to look it up now. I think he went to like Yale or somewhere.
Hey, so Bruntz, full disclosure, you were pretty calm at the half. I'm not just pumping you up and because you weren't super excitable, but was that more your personality or did you feel pretty good?
No, I mean, I think it was probably me just coming to terms with what I just watched. Like, I mean, the special team stuff was like, hide the women and children bad. But I think the thing that was probably the most frustrating was just you felt like you completely dominated that half of football and you had nothing to show for it because the offense was driving the ball. They were moving it relatively well, and it felt like the defense really had things under control. And I think the prevailing feeling, at least it was that on my message board, it seemed like, was that, Nebraska has, we talked about it going into that game. Nebraska's lost to bad Purdue teams there before by just not going in and taking care of business. And I thought it was interesting after the game and talking to players that I forget who it was, but it might have been Sire Wright, but he said that Matt Rhule was more calm, or no, it's Ty Robinson. Matt Rhule was more calm at halftime of that game than he was at any of their other games. Like he's, just peeling the paint against Colorado, but against Purdue was pretty calm. So I don't know. I mean, I think within the locker room over there, they felt like even though the first half didn't obviously go the way they wanted it to, that they were still going to win the fight, even though it was going to have to go a little bit longer than what they probably thought going in.
That was interesting to hear Ty say that too, Bruntz, because at one point during the game, I said, God, and I jinxed it because he got the 15-yarder a little later, but I said, this is probably the most calm I've seen Coach Rhule on the sidelines given what was going on. And I also loved when he came out of the half, he told Jess, he said, listen, this is what it is. It's a close game. We got a chance to win. Our team needs this. Like, let's go play football. And I just was, for me, it was like an inspirational moment just listening, because I'm like, well, yeah, why don't I just look at it like that? Like, this is an opportunity. And maybe that's what those guys were hearing at the half too.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of times football coaches and players say that they don't pay attention to what's out there. I think Matt Rhule is very aware of what is out there about his team and the types of games that they've won and not won. And from talking to the players, he really hammered home the fact that, look, this is the type of game that people say that we don't win, where it's the tight games, where things maybe aren't going perfectly. And he told them flat out, this is an opportunity to change that narrative about what kind of a team we are. So I think guys really kind of hooked onto that. And, guys just kind of started making plays. I mean, I think there's been a lot of talk this week about John Bullock, and for good reason, but that third down stop that he had was huge on that drive coming out of halftime to force the field goal. And I think that kind of calmed things down a little bit, but I think I think they're very aware of kind of the big picture over there and kind of what team they are. And I legitimately think that there's still kind of this question of, okay, well, what kind of a team is this really? And, you kind of needed to have a game like that on the road, I think, to kind of get a sense of maybe where they're at, because for the most part that they've gotten up early and run away from teams, except for that Illinois game. So that was a different look that Nebraska kind of had to deal with there.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntz, as you kind of experience that consternation you were talking about at halftime, how much of it, because I've been trying to figure this out all week, is how much of it had to do with what you actually saw, like the special teams, for instance, right? Just how bad that was, what you actually saw either on Saturday or what you've seen from this team throughout the year, and how much of it really is just kind of the PTSD of what we've seen from teams that really have nothing to do with this specific team.
Well, it's in the context of your question, it's kind of like, well, the field goal issues lead into the PTSD. Like the reason that the PTSD exists is because Nebraska has done things like they were doing in the kicking game. And I don't know. I mean, there should be legitimate concerns about the kicking game. I mean, when you can't make a field goal, basically when you got to get inside the 10 to make a field goal, that's a challenge for an offense that I think can move the ball relatively well, but is going to need to be able to cash in on some of those trips into opponent's territory. So, I think it's a legitimate concern. I think it's also kind of comes to the front of mind when it's just really kind of laid bare like that. I mean, and when you kind of dig into it a little bit more, it's not just, a guy hooking a kick. I mean, if you can't even get the snap back and you're switching snappers in and out of the game and things like that, I mean, it's not ideal by any means. So I think, and I think, to your question too, I mean, I think there is still a lingering feeling of, okay, we've watched this movie for 10 years where Nebraska's found new ways to lose close games. You need to see Nebraska win a few of those before you can kind of shake that feeling, I feel like.
Bruntz, I kind of surmise this as Nebraska being not only dialed because you want to be 5-1 heading into the bye on a good note, but I think there's this thing where Nebraska's focused on Rutgers not being a better version at this stage than Nebraska is at being similar teams, right? Then there's the whole parallels between Coach Rhule and the reverence that he has for Coach Schiano. How important is it for Nebraska to understand that Rutgers can't be a better version of Nebraska right now, especially in Lincoln?
Yeah, I mean, they got to – it's kind of gut check time for Nebraska. I mean, I think when you kind of dig in a little bit more, it feels like the types of things that Rutgers does well are things that Nebraska at times this year has really kind of struggled with. And I think it's going to, I think Nebraska is a little bit more explosive in the passing game on offense than what Rutgers is going to be. I do think, though, that the types of identity type things that both teams want to do, there's similarities there. And Nebraska is going to have one of those kind of dialed in 4-quarter games and understand that you're probably going to be in a tight game late again. I mean, that's the way that Rutgers plays. That's the way that Nebraska is going to play. And it's a little bit of an identity game, I think, just to kind of, continue to build on what they did last week against Purdue. With what Rutgers does on offense, you're going to have to tackle really well. So you're going to have to carry that over from what you did in West Lafayette. You're going to have to win up front on defense, which I thought they did a better job of doing that against Purdue than they did against Illinois. And then it's special teams is going to really kind of need to be as dialed in as it can, because Rutgers is going to, get after Nebraska and for good reason. And there might also be an opportunity too for Nebraska to do something on special teams. I mean, Rutgers has given up block punts. If you look at the numbers, Rutgers' punt return defense is not very good nationally. They've given up a few big plays, so there might be an alleyway or two there if Nebraska can find it. So it's going to be a challenging game, and it's, stylistically, I think you're right. I mean, Nebraska needs to be a better version of itself, because I think Rutgers kind of sees itself in the same way that Nebraska and Matt Rhule do.
Bruntz, how much do you think Nebraska can change the narrative about special teams with some of the things you're talking about, right? Let's say the field goals continue to struggle, maybe not to the extent that they did against Purdue, but kind of the way they've been throughout the last year and a half, basically. Like, how much can they change the narrative with either a block kick or they find an alley on a punt return or something like that, in terms of like, hey, it's not all negative. They're just struggling in this one specific area.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of even the way it is now, though. The net punting number has not been great, but I think Brian Shee's kicked it relatively well. Yeah. Field position-wise, Nebraska is actually doing really well this year with starting field position. That's something they've always struggled with. And a lot of it has just, frankly, been good decision-making by Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda. I mean, he catches kicks when he's supposed to. He, lets them bounce when he's supposed to. That's been kind of a bugaboo for Nebraska for a while now, that it's not, the flashy DeMornay Pearson-L plays, but just fair catching a kick when you need to. And they've done a good job of that. But yeah, I mean, I think in some ways, I mean, it's like if you block a punt or you get a big return, it's a little bit of it's kind of like hey, look over here, look what we did over here kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Kind of a flash play. But those are big plays in the course of a game. And when you're playing one-score games, I mean, it can really change momentum and can help your offense a ton too. So if they're able to block one, and they've gotten close a few times this year, I mean, that would be pretty big and at least distracting from the narrative of what it is right now. But I mean, I am a little bit fascinated to see how decision making and whatever is in that book and whatever the analytics say is changed by kind of what Nebraska's situation is right now.
If at the almost the halfway point, if Bullock is your defensive MVP, who's next in voting?
I would say I would go with Ty Robinson. I feel comfortable with that. I mean, I don't know that he had a great game against Illinois, but I think coming into the season, you were kind of hoping that what he could be this year would be cashing in on some of the plays that he was close to making at the end of last year. And I think for the most part, he's done a pretty nice job of that. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. There's like an under the radar guy that I could shock and awe you with, but I don't know that there's somebody that immediately comes to mind.
I thought
MJ Sherman.
That's what that's what I thought you were going to say, because you're kind of a deep pool guy. I thought you may go with MJ Sherman.
Yeah, I mean he's playing at a different level than what he has been, and I think he would deserve deserve to be in that conversation. But I think Ty Robinson probably. I think his impact probably gets overlooked a little bit because you're like, yeah, these are the plays that we kind of thought he should be making, but the fact that he's actually making them, is noteworthy. I know the NFL scout that I was sitting next to at West Lafayette was pretty bullish on what his prospects were going to be next spring. So there's that too.
Were you more excited to sit next to NFL scouts or try to get a gauge on Cheez-It Bowl reps?
What was the last part? I didn't catch it.
Or I said, were you more excited to sit next to NFL scouts or to try to get a good gauge on Cheez-It Bowl reps the week before?
Well, were they there? Were the Cheez-It Bowls?
No. I would have texted you. No. I just wanted to see. I would have been watching to see if he was just going to flip Cheez-Its, but no. I knew you were equally as excited, so I just was curious.
I would have. I was gonna say I didn't see the trail of Cheez-Its around the press box, so I didn't think they were there.
What'd you do with all the Werther wrappers?
BC was just inhaling those during the Vikings Packers game. There were some nerves in the second half. It was like those Werthers were like,
give me another Werther.
Yeah.
So, Bruntz,
my man is turning and burning wrapped candy.
You got people under 70 choosing just to smash Werthers. Is that what I'm understanding?
Ask Brian the next time you have him on next week. He's a big Werther's guy, and there's apparently he has assured me, and I've not tried these, but there has been big technological advancements in what Werther's is doing. There's like a chewy Werther's now that Brian swears by, and I can't pretend like I wasn't also having some in the car too. But
it was the greatest. It was the greatest no context picture ever. That you said, I was in tears.
The fact that BC is up on like the latest Werther's breaking news and technological advancements is the most like on brand thing I've ever heard in my life.
Tracks, right?
It's hilarious.
Yeah. No, ask him. He'll get up on the table for chewy Werthers.
Bruntz, let's switch to the other side of the ball, and I'm going to take Dylan Rhule out of the equation here. I'll ask the same question that DB asked. Who's your offensive MVP outside of Dylan Rhule through the first 5-6 games of the season?
Oh,
that's tough.
It is tough.
You could pick one receiver every week almost.
Yeah, no, that's why it's tough, right? Because it's like, no, maybe this other guy. No.
Is it Nair? I mean, I would go Nair.
How about him only having one catch the other day? It's who are you going to try to take away if you're playing Nebraska?
Yeah. I mean, and I felt like a little bit like the previous 2 weeks that Jamal Banks has kind of been like the distraction, right? Like, we're just going to send you on routes and let Travis Hunter chase you and hope that, we can hurt the other guys. But I don't know. It's a tough question. I mean, you could say Emmett Johnson at times. I think you could say Banks at times. I mean, I don't. It's Riola and then like the whole cast of characters, and I feel like that's kind of. I don't know. I mean, that's just there's a depth there. I don't. You could say Ja'Cory Barney, I guess, just based on the last couple of games. I think he's going to be more in that conversation by the time the season's over. But I don't think there's like a front runner in that group of like, hey, this is the guy.
Is there?
Like there is kind of on defense.
Is there a specific lineman that you would like look at as standing above the others, or is it kind of a unit for you?
Probably the group. I mean, I've been impressed with what Gunnar Gatula's stepped in and done. I mean, when you consider that this is basically your third string left tackle, and you put him in there and you didn't even really notice he was there, that's a pretty good sign. He's been steady, but I don't know. I think it's probably just the group. I mean, I think that's the strength of the line right now is just that you can kind of plug and play guys a little bit and not really miss all that much.
Hey, Bruntz, how many receivers do you think Nebraska has with double-digit catches, including hand sweeps?
For the year?
Yeah.
Oh, double digits. I don't know, 6, 7.
Not bad.
Like
5.
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is. That is a lot.
And the guy that we think is the most explosive hasn't really done it with traditional pass catching. He's done it with running
with the other stuff,
because he has the lowest yards per catch average, which doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Yeah. They spread it around. That's a good thing, though.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
See if I can get some Cheez-Its into the booth for you on Saturday. That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7.
He was so chill during half. I was like,
that's how he is, though.
And
man.
it literally was just me and him in the hallway.
That's
was
just how he is.
I don't know where everybody else was.
You know, they're also pretty chill over at Game Day Men's Health, and they've got some stuff that you maybe haven't even heard of yet. One of them, peptide therapies. It could seriously change your game. These cutting-edge treatments can help with muscle growth, recovery, even skin health, all while being paired with more traditional treatments like testosterone replacement programs. With Game Day Men's Health, you're not just a number on a screen. They customize things to your health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Southwest-Omaha to find out more, make appointments, and get all the info you need. Coming up next, we got more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It is time for Bet On It, brought to you by War Horse Sportsbook and War Horse Casino. Don't forget, every Saturday this month in Omaha, you can get out to the War Horse Casino, and one lucky guest will win $10,000 in cash. We'll have a grand prize drawing every Saturday in October at 10:30 p.m. But go hang out before that, because you can get $500 as free slot play every 30 minutes from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. only at War Horse Casino. Go to warhorsecasino.com for more details. DB.
What do you want now?
I want to know what you're betting on.
I don't know.
You don't know yet?
I'm going to bet on the fact that I can't stand Steve Pierce.
You're not a big Steve Pierce guy.
Yeah, and everybody's probably like, who? Exactly.
That's kind of the point.
Unless you're a Red Sox fan.
That's kind of the point, because he's even, like, the moment isn't forgettable, but he's even forgettable as a Red Sox. Like, even for Red Sox.
I'm surprised you didn't bring him up.
Because he's forgettable. Like, the moment, I remember as soon as you said his name, the moment clicked in for me. But, like, I don't know that I would have come up with his name.
Yeah, that's
your point, right?
That's one time I clearly remember, because you asked me, somehow it came up if we'd shut the TV off.
Yeah.
No, it was Suits, right? He said I would contemplate, and I was like, gosh, would I do that?
Because he was talking about it for the Purdue game.
Yeah, that was the one time, and I mean, the game was going to be over after he hit it off Baez, but I didn't stick around for anything.
Yeah, just click.
And I couldn't stand Pedro Baez to begin with.
Yeah.
So that didn't help matters any. He had hit the two bombs off Kershaw.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was I think he hit them both off Kershaw.
I think he did. Yeah.
And
this is a nobody player. I mean,
but you know what's funny?
I
thought the Red Sox were the better team.
They were. I mean, that year they were. The Red Sox
they were better than the Dodgers.
That Red Sox team was filthy good. Like, really,
so
really good. But that's why it's so weird that it was Steve Pierce that beat you.
And I'm pretty sure he won MVP.
World Series MVP?
Man,
I don't think so.
I do.
I'm looking it up right now.
I do. I'm telling you, he hit like 3 or 4 dongs.
He was you're right. He was the World Series MVP. You're right.
And do you know why I remember though?
Why?
Because I couldn't stand Pedro Baez. It took him. Listen, I'm dead dog serious. It took this dude 15 minutes to pitch.
He's one of only 3 players to win World Series to have multi-homer games in the world, to have a multi-home run game in the World Series at 35 or older. It's him, Babe Ruth, and Ted Klaczewski.
Unbelievable.
That's Steve Pierce. That's,
See, I feel some type of way about
I
that.
can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. That's
he hit 2 bombs.
dude. He hit some tanks.
You seem very hurt right now.
I was, and I was kind of vouching for Kershaw, but it set the stage when they beat the Rays and he's starting to have some postseason success.
Yeah,
that's what all the scuttlebutt is about now, right?
Yep.
Like Judge hasn't had postseason.
Ohtani's never even been there.
He's never been there. Yeah. Apparently, the Orioles are the only team that want to pitch to Bobby Witt, but he's just getting started. So at least if you're one of these Royals honks, like the majority of our friends, at least Bobby Witt got it out of the way. He's playing well in his first postseason, so he doesn't have to get the Bonds treatment or some of these other guys that it took a little bit of time to have playoff success.
So I want to get to the NFL game tonight because that was one that our guy B. Edwards had on his sheet.
Yes, with
indeed. The Buccaneers as 2-point dogs to Atlanta. I don't know if I like that.
Well, because you think that Tampa's the better team.
Yeah, Tampa's just better.
They are.
And I'm not sure. I mean, I'm taking the points.
I'd lay the points.
You think so?
Yeah.
You got Atlanta?
I would lay the points. I don't love it. I would probably, it depends on what the money line is, but
yeah.
Because if it's not a great difference, I'll always take just getting the win over less than a key number. Because 100% of the time, I don't like looking at a team, all things being equal, when it's less than a key number at home, especially in Atlanta. But the line, I think it did open at 3.
Tampa is plus 105, Atlanta minus 125 on the money line.
So I would take a look at the ATL on the money line. That's just me.
I think Tampa Bay just wins this game
because they're better.
They are just better, and like Brian said, I'm not sure that the travel makes a ton of difference in this scenario, especially on the short week. It's not.
What did he say? He's like
75.
I made that minute. I made that flight.
I mean, it's like
minutes.
here to Chicago, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't even consider that hardly a trip if you're on the plane for an hour. And we all know from your experiences in West Lafayette, like that chartered travel is a little different than going and hanging out at the airport. You know, like you get in and out pretty quick there. Like I'm sure they're not spending a lot of time.
I don't know. Like I wouldn't go all Braves last night on it like I would have, but
you're not going to fight me on it too hard.
No, because they are the better team.
I just think Tampa's better, and I'm buying into the Baker Mayfield revival.
He's playing at a high level.
He's playing really good. Like it's not just he's playing. It's like it's not really just kind of like a cute story anymore.
No,
like he's like last year. That's kind of how I felt all year about Baker Mayfield. It was like, oh, that's nice. He's kind of having a moment and kind of redeeming himself a little bit. I think he's actually just good. Yeah. Like he might actually just be good.
Who do you like in a winner take all with Mets and Brewers?
Oof. Man. I know the Brewers.
The Mets will throw Quintana. Who are the Brewers going to go with Myers?
I would guess so. I liked see, I'm off on this series because I like the Brewers in game 1. I thought they were going to win.
Yeah, you picked all dogs except Sands. The Padres.
Yeah, I thought Brewers were going to take game 1. Obviously, that flip-flopped with game 1 and game 2. Yeah, it looks like Quintana and Myers are who people are expecting. I think this is just because I don't like the Mets. I think I want to go Brewers here.
In the mayor.
But yeah, I just don't like the Mets. I don't. You know what it is? What? It's because I kind of had an affinity for the Braves back in like the Chipper. I like Chipper Jones a lot.
Oh my gosh!
Really? Yeah, I was a Chipper Jones guy.
Figures.
Why?
Similar personalities, at least of what I know about him.
Well, we're both...
very sarcastic, very snarky, very matter of fact.
He was just a good ball player. I liked him. So
he called him a ball player. What are you, 70?
He's a good ball player.
Wow. You went all sort of old man on me.
I turn into like a 90-year-old when I talk baseball.
Good ball player. Sorry, Mayor.
Got a strong jaw. No.
He's a diehard.
So you know what it is? When I first started watching sports was like regularly and can remember watching games a lot. It was like 94, 95. And Chipper Jones was a rookie in 95. Like that was a big So like he was formative for me.
It's fine.
I like Chipper Jones.
It's fine.
And the Mets were always mean to Chipper Jones, so they always call him Larry, and so I didn't like the Mets. I honestly think that's what it is. Like I have sort of a gut reaction, like a visceral disdain for the Mets.
You like the people that nobody else does?
And I think it's because they called him Larry, and I didn't like it.
Wow.
So I don't have a good feel on the Mets. I also just think it's kind of funny that they spent all this money and were still like really bad a couple years ago and like barely like struggled to make the playoffs. It's like, yeah, it's not. Oh, that's not really how you build teams in a sustainable
at least
way.
they put an effort in.
I do appreciate that they're trying, right?
Well, you chiming in like Big Ben over there? Like, what do you care? You can't even decide. You can't even decide between the Lions and the Tigers right now.
And the Bears. Oh my! I'll take a Mets over an A's poverty situation any day of the week. Not even just in terms of the results, but like I would rather lose trying and spending money and knowing my ownership cares and wants to make an effort than I would be like, hey, we're gonna have the lowest payroll in baseball by 50%.
Are series prices out yet?
I don't think so. I haven't seen them.
I'd like to see what the series prices are
for the ones that are already set up.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's only one game today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything.
So which series are intriguing you?
So if I'm a Phillies fan,
yeah,
I much prefer I would think they would prefer the Mets over the Brewers.
To play the Mets?
Yeah, just because the Brewers would make you be a little more fundamentally sound, and that's not always the Philly way.
Because the Brewers are kind of a little old school, small ball.
Go ahead and remember what Arizona did to Philly.
Do the Brewers kind of remind you of like 2015 Royals at all?
Kind of.
Like how they go about their business?
Kind of.
Because that's kind of the vibes I get sometimes. Which is fun to watch them, especially in postseason.
Do they have an Alcides Escobar?
They might.
Well, you got a Garrett.
You might find an Alcides Escobar in the butt.
Do they they have several Terrence scorers.
Out of there's only one Terrence score. Out of Tigers, Guardians, Royals, Yankees, Padres, Dodgers, which matchup intrigues you the most to see the line on the series?
Tigers, Guardians.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tigers are hot and they're very familiar with the Guardians.
You think if you could get some plus money on the Royals, you'd be interested there since you're not super high?
You're gonna get a ton of plus money. You'll get a ton of plus money.
I
bet you the Yanks are 4-1.
That might be worth a flyer. If you get the Royals at plus 400, that's probably worth a flyer.
Yeah. Give their rotation a chance to reset though. That's kind of key.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Coming up next, we'll talk a little Rutgers here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Manungai to his left, whims it, hands it off for Kyle, bounces outside right, cuts inside left and scores! The Rutgers touchdown! Kyle Manungai for the Scarlet Knights punches it in from 15 yards out.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Bobby Darren. He covers Rutgers for 24/7 Sports Scarlet Nation. Bobby, how are you this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, Bobby, between talking to you Tuesday night on Big Red Wrap-Up and all the media requests you're probably getting this week, man, are you over Nebraskans yet or what?
I was out there. I wrote an NFL draft book years ago. So one of the players played for Nebraska. So I went out there and I had a blast. So ever since then, I don't have anything bad to say about Nebraska.
Hey, look, so we've been trying to break this down because Nebraska seems exceptionally dialed in. And I don't know if it's, it could be for a multitude of reasons. But part of it, I think, is Coach Rhule has such a reverence for Coach Schiano. And Rutgers plays in a way that I think Coach Rhule kind of admires, with the ground and pound and the not beating yourselves. How much of this game is about which team do you think can be the best version of themselves?
Yeah, I think, over the course of the season, a lot of these games Rutgers is going to play it's going to come down to, those little things, how good can they be at their best? And by that, but Rutgers is playing tough, mistake-free, disciplined football. And that's really what won them the game against Washington last week, because Washington had over 500 yards of offense. And, but they made mistakes, they costly penalties, and Rutgers didn't. And I think that's one thing that Coach Rhule admires. And I know Matt a little bit from when he was at Temple, dealing with recruiting in this area, and nothing but good things to say about him. But, I think when you look at the Greg Schiano coach program, it's very disciplined. I mean, it's very structured, and practices are intense, and he demands a lot of his players. And, that's why a lot of these guys who are, fringe NFL draft guys will get picked up and might stick around on the bottom of a 53 or practice squad because of the culture he instills and how he just gets every guys to buy in, play smart, play the right way, and be pretty much good kids for the most part.
Bobby, one of the things that's kind of uncharacteristic for a Greg Schiano team is kind of the run defense this year, giving up about 6 yards per carry. How much of a concern is that for you, and how much do you think they might be able to improve on that now that we're almost halfway through the season?
Well, the first few games are playing with two brand new linebackers. They lost Mohamed Toure in the preseason, who tore his ACL, and he was probably on pace to be their best player, even over Kyle Manungai on offense. That was a huge loss. Tyreen Powell's their other starting linebacker, just came back a couple weeks ago from an Achilles, but working his way back. So against the run, those first-time starters at linebacker were just kind of feeling things out and getting used to it. And I think you saw a lot of misfits in there. And you have some defensive linemen who are new in there, and they're getting adjusted to it. So I think his defense is still feeling itself out and trying to find its new identity, even though they have a lot of guys returned from last year. It's a different unit from the one that finished last year as number 16 in the nation in total defense. So, it's still kind of a work in progress, so to speak, even though it is a veteran-laden defense. But I think the more experience they get, the better they'll get. But, it's going to be a tough task this weekend for them.
Bobby, help me explain. This is the former running back nerd in me. And this started in the summer watching Monangai and what he did last year. And I kind of liken it to he's kind of in one with this offensive line scheme where he's very, very patient, even though he's a downhill guy. He's got good power, but he's never really in a hurry. Like, how do you kind of break down his running style and what makes him so effective?
Yeah, I appreciate that for a running back myself. So, he runs with he's not real tall, so he runs with a real low center of gravity already, and he's just tough and strong, and he's really starting to develop really good vision, and I mean he's had it, but it's you just see it. Last week he had a 40-yard run where he ran through a few tackles, but prior to that it was a play that, to go up the middle, and he recognized it, bounced it outside, and he's doing a lot of these little things.
Yeah, he's a patient son of a gun, isn't he?
Yeah, and he can, he's not in a hurry. Sometimes backs, when they go through the hole, you're trying to go 100 miles an hour and this thing. He's not that guy, and he has very violent cuts, and he can turn and really run through tackles, and he's just really well suited for this offense. Even when he was starting to just play a little bit, Isaiah Pacheco was the starting running back. He would go in games and be a little more effective because he was just better suited for this offense. It's just kind of like the perfect fit for him. And 2 years ago, Sam Brown, who's his backup now, took the starting job from him, but was injured in his first game when he started, and it took him a while to get back to his old self. And during that interim, the non-guy just took over, and every week it just seemed like he was getting better and better.
Bobby, what have you thought about the play of Kaliakmanis so far as quarterback? Obviously, Monangai is the focus of the offense, but kind of quietly, Kaliakmanis has put up pretty solid numbers through the air so far this year. Is that a guy that you feel comfortable with if, for whatever reason, Monangai is having a little bit of trouble getting going, that they can rely on Kaliakmanis a little bit to kind of bridge the gap for him?
Yeah, it's a great – I was going to say solid before you said it. He's been solid, and I think he's a guy that can get some things done with the passing game, but he's not a guy that's going to go 300, 400 yards. He's a guy that can get you some first downs and move the chains. He doesn't have a ton of zip on the ball, so if he's on the run or if you have to make a throw in a really tight window, he doesn't have that rocket arm, but he's a very smart player. And Kirk-Ciarrocca tailors the offense to what suits him. And he knows him really well because he coached him at Minnesota. Kaliakmanis started 5 games there in 2022 under Kirk-Ciarrocca before he left for Rutgers. So they're very familiar with each other, and he kind of plays to his strengths. And, in terms of how successful he's been at Rutgers, it's a huge step up because the quarterback position hasn't been that great for a long time. So, Gavin Wimsatt was bad last year. Noah Vedral was serviceable at times when he was there, but it's never been a prolific passing attack. So just to get some semblance of a solid passing game is a huge step up. Now, can he take over if Monangai stopped in his tracks? That's a great question. I don't know if he can control the game. He can help manage the game, but putting the team on his shoulders, that's a tall task.
All right, so which one is because they both kind of show up statistically, right? Getting vertical in the passing game outside the numbers. But with the lack of the depth and the injuries you've had in the secondary, people have been able to chunk you via the air. If you have a concern based on the opponent on Saturday, which one has the potential to rear its ugly head first?
That's a good question, because sometimes when you think, they got one area shored up, boom, there's a big play. I think part of the reason that you'll see the passing game struggle at times is because they fail to get a consistent pass rush. If you're just rushing the front 4 of Rutgers, chances are you're not going to get to the quarterback. And the sacks have been limited. TFLs, they're in the bottom of the FBS in both categories.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. Now, you have some good coverage guys back there, but I think it'll really come down to the front 4 and even in the running game too. Can those guys get some penetration? Can they get some traction? Can they get to the quarterback and pressure him? And I think that's the biggest key. because, at times when that is faltered, you've seen some of those plays where they get gashed. And like I mentioned before, the linebacker play is improving in terms of the run, but keep an eye on those trenches because that's going to be a big determining factor in how Rutgers fares on Saturday.
Bobby, you talked a little bit about this earlier in terms of Washington's production offensively that didn't lead to points. Is that a way that Rutgers feels like they can kind of sustainably win, sort of that bend but don't break philosophy defensively, or do you think obviously they don't want to give up 500 yards of total offense, but do you think they can survive that philosophically, or they need to tighten things up a little bit more?
No, I think they definitely need to tighten things up because it's even though they have a lot of guys back from last year, it's not the same type of defense that they're playing this year. And I think, they just made some plays there and got a few breaks. And Greg Schiano talked about this earlier this week. He said, we don't want to be a bend but don't break defense. But I think it's still kind of that unit coming together and gelling. And there's still not a person on that defense where you can point to and be like, that's the guy. When they lost Mohamed Toure, Greg Schiano said they lost their alpha of the team. And no one has really been able to step up into that huge playmaking role. I mean, you've seen some contributions from all three levels, but there isn't that one guy who can really be that unique playmaker on the defense. So you're kind of waiting to see that. And it's still a unit that looks to me like it's still trying to find itself, if that makes sense. They're looking for a new identity on this year's team because it's not the same unit that controlled teams a lot better last year. And if it doesn't come together one of these weekends, it could gash them for a lot of plays and it could get ugly.
Something's got to give here. Nebraska +5 in takeaways, and Rutgers doesn't give it away. They make you earn it. Are you thinking at all that turnovers become an issue for teams coming into this one and haven't really turned it over?
Definitely. I think it's going to come down to who makes fewer mistakes and also that big defensive front could give Rutgers problems, in the running game because the offensive line hasn't been spectacular. They've been solid, but Nungai's made a lot of yards on his own, a lot of yards after contact. But yeah, if you see Rutgers give the ball away, they're really good. Rutgers is really good when they don't turn the ball over. So if they start, giving the ball away, it's going to be a red flag right there. This one's going to go the other way. But I think it'll be a lower scoring game. And
me too.
If the team makes too many mistakes, just cash it in.
That's Bobby Darren. He covers Rutgers for 24/7 Sports, ScarletNation.com. Bobby, we appreciate the time. We'll catch up with you again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, B.
That's Bobby Darren, 24/7 Sports. Kind of a sneaky thing about the Rutgers offensive line that he alluded to. A lot of Manungai's yards come in chunk plays. He's got a lot of 0 and negative yard plays and carries that get lost in the game in the box score when the game's over. Point. We'll get to more of that tomorrow on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.